Chapter 40. Iron Bloodline, Bronze Body, Silver Prestige, Gold Will, Legendary Venerable, World Saint, Immortal Epic, Indestructible Demigod. The names of these power levels are enough to explain a lot. Iron Bloodline is defined by the system as level 1 to level 20. At this time, most people have just started their job, and the power they can grasp usually comes from their bloodline. However, at this time, the path of growth has already been determined. Does it sound very puzzling? Then let's use the system to explain it. The following three are the most common close combat jobs of the three races: Standard Beastman Berserker Template, Strength, 15, Agility, 8, Vitality, 12, Main Attribute, Strength, Race Talent, Berserk. Standard Dark Elf Assassin Template, Strength, 12, Agility, 14, Vitality, 9, Main Attribute, Agility, Race Talent, Magic Resistance. Standard Human Warrior Template, Strength, 12, Agility, 8, Vitality, 10, Main Attribute, Strength, Race Talent. None. Strength is the power of the physical body, agility is the combination of reflexes and balance, and vitality is the health and sturdiness of one's life. They are all the most important attributes of close combat jobs. In the Iron rank, the rookies of the various races will work hard towards the standard template. Through training, they will increase their strength. That so-called innate divine strength is probably a natural strength +2. As they work hard, they will get closer and closer to this template. When all their basic abilities reach the standard, it is time to break through to the next rank. Why? Complaining that it is unfair. Beastmen and Dark Elves have a total of 35 melee attributes, but humans only have 30, and they don't even have race talent. Sorry, this world has always been unfair. The natural attributes and abilities of the races are not equal. Otherwise, there would not be so many disputes and discrimination. As the two sides work hard, the difference in talent will further increase this inequality. This is like a person walking and a person riding a horse starting at the same time. After the same amount of time, the person riding the horse will definitely run further. For example, a normal beastman's strength will increase by 0.1 every level, and it will increase by 2 points at level 20. On the other hand, a human warrior can increase by 1 point at level 20, which is enough to be called a good seedling for a strength-type warrior. Moreover, this was a comparison without considering the racial talent. The racial talent of a powerful race was usually extremely shocking. Among warriors of the same rank, there was a huge difference in actual combat power between different races. This had become a common understanding in this world. However, in contrast, humans, the race with the worst talent, had the fastest growth rate. The more powerful a race was, the slower their growth rate would be. Dragons needed 100 years to become youths, and elves needed 200 years to become adults. For humans, 70 to 80 years was more than enough for them to reach the peak of their prime. In game terms, the weaker the job or race, the lesser the experience required to level up. Using myself as an example, when I was at the initial stages of legend rank, the experience required for a Lich was at least 3 times that of a human mage. Training from scratch was a pain. However, due to the difficulty of breaking through each rank, this advantage wasn't much for a top-tier expert. However, to create a large number of low-tier warriors, or cannon fodder, a mortal race like the humans had an obvious advantage. On the other hand, the elves of the silver race were adept at creating a large number of middle-tier experts. The dragons of the gold race might have a small population, but no one dared to look down on them. If the iron rank was still the beginning of the journey and they were mainly imitating the words of their seniors, then the warriors who had reached bronze body would start to train their combat skills, dig out their potential, improve themselves, and forge their own perfect war body. In game terms that were easy to understand, work hard to learn skills, increase talent, increase stats, silver dignity. At this level, the physical body was already close to the limits of mortals. They would start to train their will, train their combat skills, and combine the power of their spirit and will to form a battle style that was most suitable for them. In game terms, the character template had already been formed, and the increase in stats would slow down. It would be too difficult to continue grinding stats, so they could learn a few big moves to show off. Gold will. At this level, experts would start to combine their specialties to find a path that was suitable for them. If they could obtain a specific high-tier job and inheritance, then their growth would be even faster. In game terms, it would be to choose a path and advance, entering the next level from the root, a new starting point. Above that, Legend tier would be the soul imprint. Saint tier would be the soul world. I have briefly mentioned it before, so I won't talk about it for now. Speaking of this, perhaps some people would be able to guess why and couldn't defeat Eliza no matter what. And was a human. The amazing thing was that she was a mixed-blood human with part of the Phoenix bloodline. At the pinnacle of gold tier, although she didn't have any racial talents, her main attribute, strength, had reached 19 points. At the very least, in terms of basic attributes, she had already stepped on the edge of a legend tier warrior. Different from other games in other worlds, it is very difficult to increase basic attributes in this world. However, in the later stages, 4 or 5 attribute points would make a huge difference. However, her opponent, Eliza, was a half-demon favored by the Abyss. Her racial talent was the Abyss summoning. As long as she was willing to respond to the summoning and demonize, she would be able to obtain a huge increase in her attributes. At her current level, she was already a medium demonization, strength plus 12, agility plus 12, stamina plus 12, intelligence plus 12, charm plus 6, will minus 6. Just this level of increase was enough to render and helpless. Eliza, who was a demon kin, started off with 12 points of strength. Adding on another 12 points. A mage who was able to crush a warrior in terms of strength was born. Adding on the overall advantage in agility and stamina, it would be a joke for a monkey to defeat a dinosaur by relying on battle techniques. No matter how powerful the battle technique was, in the end, it was still a test of one's basic attributes. That was why Eliza had the ability to catch the god sword barehanded. Adding on those messy body arts that I had imparted to her, as well as her self-created close combat technique of combining magic and martial arts with ice, not to mention and who was at the pinnacle of gold tier, even a legend tier Shuati might not be able to win against her. As my favorite student, as a close combat mage, Eliza had, without a doubt, surpassed her teacher. This was indeed unfair, but compared to Little Red's ancient red dragon perfect body, immune to poison, plague, and fire, increasing all attributes by 30, Eliza's medium demonification was already very reliable. I reckoned that even if she were to fully demonify, all her attributes would only increase by 20 points and her will would plummet. Of course, there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. The power of the Abyss of Chaos was destined to be difficult to obtain. A lowered will would make it harder and harder for her to resist the summoning of demonification. In the end, she would completely turn into a demon. I personally forbade her from using the Abyss summoning talent. In fact, using the contract magic invented by the devils, I added this clause into the contract between me and Eliza. Before the salary was paid and the contract was settled, I forbade her from using her physical body to instinctively demonify. The root of the devils and demons is the river Styx, and the two of them are unquestionably mortal enemies. This can be considered as using the power of the river Styx to resist the summoning of the river Styx. This is a method that I came up with when there was no other way, a way out when there was no other way out. Perhaps, one day, Eliza would be like the other demon descendants, unable to resist the summoning of the Abyss in her bloodline. Just like my foolish younger brother, she would walk into the door leading to hell, the Abyss, and become a resident of the lower plane. However, I hoped that with my obstruction, that day would be delayed indefinitely. At least, in my lifetime, I wouldn't let all of this happen. Alright, there are always good and bad things in this world. Relying on the racial advantage of this half-demon, Eliza's current battle prowess isn't inferior to the legend rank battle prowess that the other underground city lords are proud of. Eliza is indeed very strong. As a human, and is slightly weaker. After all, she is only a 19-year-old girl. However, the strength of a gold rank pinnacle is enough to crush the common sense of a human. However, Adam and I aren't very satisfied. After all, in the underground world where experts are as common as clouds, a legend rank underground city lord is only the average standard. Right now, both Eliza and Anne are only at the pinnacle of gold rank, stuck at the step of forming their own soul imprint, it is hard for an outsider to help them at this step. Their soul imprint needs to be sharpened, regardless of whether it is in battle or in life. They need setbacks and failures to discover their own shortcomings. They need victories after bitter battles to uncover their own strengths and self-confidence. They need all kinds of experiences that can affect their lives. Naturally, the two of them are talented and their foundations were built by Adam and I. The only thing they lack is experience. The dark elves won't be easy to deal with. However, with the two semigods, Marguerite and Adam, backing you up, they wouldn't dare to touch you directly. Work hard, there isn't much time left. Even with me, the butterfly, causing trouble, the day when the underground world comes to an agreement to attack the surface won't be too far away. Alright, let's stop talking about serious matters here. What I am going to do next, if I were to leave it to them, it wouldn't be accumulating experience but murder. When I silently walked into the Vance City's Platinum Order auction house, there wasn't a hubbub of noise at all. However, the moment I walked in, all of the noise disappeared. Everyone turned their gaze towards the figure at the entrance. Because he is too bright. The silver light of order and law surges on his robe. The semigod equipment mask carries with it the dignity of judging everything. The thick yellow leather book tied to the left of his waist shines with the unique lines of law unique to god equipment. That worn-out gavel on his waist is also filled with the brilliance of the power of law. Obviously, it is also a semigod equipment or above. A god equipment and 3 semigod equipment. Even a true god would be moved. It would be weird if he doesn't get robbed when he goes out. Perhaps, the entire underground dragon city would be mobilized for him. Chimph, I just want to dazzle you all. However, even a fool would know that those who would bring such equipment out must be extremely stubborn. However, there are always fellows who wish to get lucky. The next moment, 2 little thieves who were forced by their superior to step out walk out from the shadows and approach my side. Incantation of law, judgment. My luck isn't bad. This unlucky fellow who is so red that it is almost black seems to have done something extremely atrocious within a few hours. Thus, incantation of law, death penalty, hanging. Under the 6-circle death sentence, an invisible noose hangs him in mid-air. Then, it is time for the sinner to repent before he spits out his tongue, as the power of law that only targets sinners, in the face of this 6-circle incantation of law, gold rank, this pitiful silver rank thief doesn't even have the time to scream before he walks into death. In front of the perverted corpse, another unlucky fellow collapses onto the floor. He is also scared to the point of peeing his pants. After all, he didn't even have the time to react before his old partner mysteriously dies in front of him. Not only that, he dies so tragically. The death of the scout is within the expectations of those who are observant. However, for him to die in such a bizarre manner, no one is able to predict it. The blankness that represents the unknown is always the color that people are most wary of. Ignoring the lucky fellow who thinks that he survived because he didn't commit any crimes in the past few hours, I walk to the front of the auction house's counter. Wherever I go, it is as though Moses is parting the ocean. I am here to auction a god equipment. Everyone's gaze is on me. The moment I finish my words, it causes a huge commotion. The auction hall that was eerily quiet just a moment ago is suddenly filled with buzzing discussions and exclamations. Of course, they would be shocked. Not to mention a god equipment, even a semigod equipment or even a myth-ranked god equipment would cause a terrifying storm and leave a mark in history. As for auctioning a god equipment, it is destined to become history. Ah, auction. Alright, you want to auction a god equipment. God equipment. God equipment. Are you sure? The eyes of this pitiful centaur lady are sparkling as she rambles incoherently. She looks as though she can't accept reality and her face crumbles. A god equipment. Congratulations to your auction house. This should be the first auction of a god equipment in the underground world. Your Platinum Order auction house is destined to leave your name in history. That centaur lady doesn't care whether she will leave a mark in history or not. The moment she hears that she is really going to sell a god equipment, her eyes roll back and she collapses to the ground. God equipment equals very valuable equals many people would snatch it equals if you break it a little, You won't be able to pay for it in your entire life equals you will be captured to be a slave equals you will be sold by evil people in the slave market equals all kinds of embarrassing encounters. This is the equation that appears in Centaur Anya's mind in an instant. I don't want to be sold as a slave and then XXXX. Thus, this lass with a rich imagination faints on the ground due to her brain overheating. This kind of matter of a big shot is a little too difficult for her, a country bumpkin who only left her hometown 3 months ago due to her obsession with transmigration novels. Slave. Who? I am not Beifeng, I won't be interested in you. Even I didn't expect to encounter such a situation. What is going on with this lass? Why does her expression change so much? In an instant, everything appears and she even cries out such a dirty joke. But now that she, the auctioneer, faints, what should I do? Return directly? Lord. Please leave it to me. I am the manager here, Carlos. This is my name card. A well-dressed gnome runs over. However, looking at his blood-red eyes and messy clothes, it is apparent that he just received the notice and came in a hurry. Are you auctioning this book? Looks like as the manager of this auction house, Carlos knows a thing or two about goods. He knows that around a god equipment, there are usually lines of regulation that it represents. However, I shake my head and snap my fingers. A skeleton soldier walked out from behind me. It held a black wooden box in its hand. Then, the box is opened. In the next second, the entire hall is lit up by starlight. Carlos even thinks that the box contains a star that has just been plucked. Until the light dissipates, it is a black scepter. It is simple and unadorned. There are traces of scorch and ice cracks on it. It is filled with the dust of history and the only thing that shines is the silver gems on it. Starlight jumps between the various gems. The light has its own rhythm, as though it is a living creature that is breathing. In front of the star-like gems on the scepter, the expensive and extravagant mermaid oil everlasting lamp of the auction house is as worthless as a cobbled candle. God equipment, it is definitely a god equipment. That starlight is its line of regulation. Wait, it is a scepter. It is a scepter. Suddenly, Carlos's face steels. The ear-piercing shriek of the gnome reverberates in the hall. Looks like I have achieved the first step of my goal. For an existence who carries 3 semigod equipment and a god equipment with him, if he were to take out another god equipment, most people would subconsciously think that it is the real one. Yong. Eternal night. He forcefully swallowed the rest of his words. He finally knows how valuable the auction item in front of him is. It is at least the weight of an empire. He is starting to envy the rookie who fainted. He wants to just faint and be done with it. Yes, eternal night scepter. I mercilessly shatter his last hope and look playfully at the despairing gnome. Eternal night scepter. My voice isn't loud, but with everyone staring at us, this is enough. Very quickly, the news of the reappearance of the Eternal Night Scepter spreads across the entire hall. Most of the people are first shocked before revealing greedy joy. In the end, it turns into fear. Gather everyone and leave quickly. Something big is going to happen here. Go. Kay isn't willing to leave. Fine, let's go and let this fool die here. God equipment is something that can only be used if one is alive. Going by the rules of the underground world, fools who don't possess treasures will die sooner or later. When the news of the reappearance of the scepter spreads, countless top powers will swarm over. By then, it would be too late to escape. Of course, there are fools and those who would risk their lives for riches. Quite a number of people walk out in a line, but there are some who stay behind. They are afraid that the thief died too mysteriously, so they don't dare to make a move. I don't care about those who have the intention but don't have the guts to spy on me. Instead, I smile at the trembling gnome who is holding the scepter. There are only 2 conditions for the auction. Firstly, the auction will be held 30 days later at 3 in the afternoon. All individuals and powers are allowed to participate. Secondly, if the auction item is lost, I want you to compensate me with 20 top-notch underground cities including Mia Oasis, Cloud Water Tank and Flying Dragon City. What? Compensate, your underground city? How can there be an underground city? Mia, I understand, the Lion Kings. You are here for the Lion King. All right. The eyes of this pitiful gnome roll back and he follows in the footsteps of his subordinate. He had indeed stated my goal. Of course, I was here for show. If I wanted to open an auction house in this city, how could I not have a backer? And the backer of this auction house was the Beastman Emperor Shou Nuya. Those underground cities that I had mentioned were also his property. Hearing the name of the underground autarch, a portion of the audience regains their rationality and instinctive fear and they choose to leave. Sometimes, knowing too much can also be the cause of death. Ayo, fainting again. Is there anyone else who can manage this? The workers who are affected by my gaze either avoid my gaze or fall to the ground and play dead. Haha, isn't this Wumianzi? Long time no see. Are you here for an auction? Alright, we will accept this deal. A boorish figure walks in from the door accompanied by loud laughter. Before he even entered, his voice reverberates in the hall. It is still the same appearance as when I saw him outside Sulphur Mountain City. The one-eyed old lion has thick fur and his muscles are well developed but not exaggerated. The scorpion tail at the back of his head drags all the way to the ground. That normal-looking black leather armor set is actually a legendary tier equipment that can't be bought with money. At this moment, the old scorpion-tailed lion beast emperor is laughing cheerfully in his own territory, as though he doesn't care about the crushing defeat and the loss of his army at all. Ayo, old thing, you actually didn't die. As expected of a man who can use his own personal army as a meat shield. It is just that your skin is thick. You managed to escape with your life and you still dare to appear in front of me. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? One shouldn't expose others' shortcomings when fighting, but I insist on doing so. In an instant, the old lion's face contorts. War is the extension of politics and all influential figures care about face. Under normal circumstances, no matter how intense the fight between underground city lords is, if there is a chance to sit together in public, they will give face to the other party and converse nicely. This is probably the first time he met an opponent who doesn't give face. In an instant, his face steels. Under normal circumstances, that is indeed the case. But why should I give face to this bastard? The old lion holds the sword hilt behind his back with both hands, but then, he is dazzled by the godly equipment on my body. Shou recalls the forbidden spell that affects the entire city, that formless and majestic heaven's eye, as though it is prepared to judge everything. Even the Beastman Emperor is a little fearful and he is unable to make the determination to fight with his life on the line. Lord. There is a non-war agreement in Vance City. Noticing his master's hesitation, a fox beastman wearing a mage robe steps forward. He seems to be reminding his master to pay attention to the rules of this city, but in reality, he is giving his boss a way out. With someone persuading him, slowly, Shou's face relaxes and he loosens his grip on the sword hilt. Of course, a neutral city restricts non-war, but there are also arenas for settling personal grudges. Furthermore, these underground autarchs who are used to being unreasonable, when have they ever cared about rules? But what happens next is a commotion in the surroundings. They don't dare to believe that the invincible Beastman Emperor would be humiliated. Could it be that the rumor that the Beastman Emperor led his army on an expedition but was defeated in a remote area is true? Going by Shou's style of doing things in the past, the fact that he didn't flare up in the face of the insults is enough to prove that the rumor is true and the reputation of this Beastman Emperor is severely damaged. But what happens next is that the one-eyed Beastman Emperor glances at the surroundings, causing all of the restless people to stop in their tracks. Even if this rumor is true, there is a possibility that it might be spread out. If Shou were to misunderstand that he was the one who spread the rumor, then he would really die an unjust death. The one-eyed Beastman Emperor suppresses his anger. However, it is obviously impossible for him to come into contact with this scoundrel in front of him. Thus, the Fox Beastman steps forward once again under the signal of his eyes. Those who do business are guests. Naturally, we should treat them with a smile, even if that guest is an unwelcome guest. Lord Wumianzi, don't you think so? These words aren't humble, they aren't sarcastic, and at the same time, they are very humorous and on point. I also laugh, seemingly skipping over the insults I said just now. If there is a ladder, then let's go. After all, I am here today to set up a trap, not to fall out with him. That is to say, my auction list. Have you all accepted it? Yes, of course we have. Alright, then let's sign the contract and use mine. The little fox takes over the goatskin contract and his face turns pale on the spot. On it isn't the common language but the devil's language of hell. This is a contract that belongs to the devil. The conditions written on it are exactly what I said. Firstly, the auction will be held 30 days later. Secondly, after losing it, you have to compensate me with 20 underground cities. The only difference is that there is a restrictive clause. If these two conditions aren't fulfilled, the person who signs the contract will fall into the river Styx, never to rise again. To humans and beast men, swearing on the river Styx is no different from swearing on the sun. In any case, it doesn't have any effect at all. However, to the malevolent gods, demons and devils who live in the lower plane, their power and life comes from the river Styx. If they were to go against the river Styx that they made, even the Spider Queen Rose would turn into a small spider. Of course, the reason why I took out this contract is to make it clear that this Beastman Emperor is just a demon wearing the skin of a beastman. The little fox shakily passes the contract to show before being sent flying by the furious Beastman Emperor. But holding on to the contract, he hesitates. The power behind him is very interested in this scepter, and if he were to let it go, if you don't accept the deal, I will give it to the Black Pearl auction house next door. I increase the price at the right moment. Behind that Black Pearl auction house is another underground autarch, Einsterner. Edua. The power behind him is the devil's. No matter from their background or the fact that they are fighting for the leadership of the Underground Alliance, Sho and Einsterner are destined to be enemies. If Einsterner were to hold the auction and form an alliance with Sulphur Mountain City, then it would be 3 vs 2. Molly isn't reliable at all. No, the worst-case scenario is that he uses those 30 days to uncover the secret of the Eternal Night Scepter. But then, Sho naturally thinks that if Einsterner can uncover the secret of the scepter, why can't he? Even if the Dark Shaman under him isn't much of an expert in this aspect, he still has Magi under him. If it really doesn't work, he can still seek help from the one behind him. No. If I really uncover the secret of Lord Yongye's strength, then I can become the second Lord Yongye. Would I still need the support of that existence? In front of the treasure, countless desires surge in the back of my head. In the end, it turns into a single sentence. I will sign it. But before signing, I want to inspect the goods. Of course. Thus, I tried my best to stifle my laughter. Why? No matter how those mags do it, those yes, and true really make me want to laugh. Before I left with the signed contract, I left with this sentence. You might regret it. As expected, what followed behind is the furious roar of a lion. The Beastman Emperor never regrets. Alright, I will continue to stifle my laughter. That night, I heard that the old lion was cooped up in his study room for an entire night. Along the way, he killed 7 tacticians, 8 mags, and 6 dark shamans, including that little fox. When he came out, he kept muttering to himself, I have clearly heard the call, how do I activate it? That night, I heard that after the old lion's auction house suffered from countless attacks, he moved to the army camp. But he still suffered from over 30 bandits, 5 military mutinies and 4 sneak attacks from other underground city lords. That night, it is said that countless underground city lords started to rush to Vance, preparing to attend the auction 30 days later. Of course, the ones moving along with them can't be counted as their army. That night, it is said that all of the necromancers and bandits went crazy. The passageway to Vance was filled with all kinds of dangerous people. At the same time, someone sent a report saying that they saw an undead lord from the surface world in the underground passageway. It is said that on the second day, the old lion's hair turned white overnight and he aged by 10 years. As for me, I look at the sky that is slowly turning white, waiting for the arrival of dawn. The wind is finally blowing, but this is just the beginning. Chapter 41. In the southwestern suburbs of Vance City, there is a wall and a small castle. It used to be the base of a grey dwarf merchant and his mercenary group. In the underground world where the strong preys on the weak, money often has to come into contact with power. Big merchants and big warlords aren't too far apart. However, It is a pity that the mercenary group that this grey dwarf chose is a little too ambitious. In less than 3 months after being hired, they killed their boss and ran away with the money. Then, this piece of land was bought by another merchant at a very cheap price. That merchant has some business dealings with Sulphur Mountain City, so he added a little more to the price and sold it to us. Personally, I like this base a lot. Although it is a little far from the central district and the surroundings are a little remote, it is a good thing for us, who have made quite a few enemies. At the very least, when the hunters and mags are setting up all kinds of traps and the goblins are happily setting up all kinds of mines, they won't accidentally injure others. Boom. It is indeed the right choice. Otherwise, it would be a nuisance to the people if there are explosions here and there. After getting used to the explosions, I nod my head as I look at the 70% mature goblins flying past. He lowered his head and ignored the 2 naked men who just flew past him, riding on Eaglestorm with wings and Shuati riding on his back. Should I be impressed by Eaglestorm's strength? Even though partial transformation is a high-level technique that only a few great druil who specialize in transformation can grasp, he uses it to transform into a human body to fulfill his teachings of not wearing clothes. Warawo. I am the king of the world. Alright, this Tauren who is patting his chest and shouting in the air is too much of an eyesore. I can't ignore him even if I wanted to. Thus, I pick up a disc-shaped goblin mine and throw it out like a frisbee. The frisbee flies in a perfect arc, but it is a pity that Eaglestorm's sharp eagle eyes have already noticed the ambush. With a flip, he easily dodges it. Haha, I can't hit it. That stupid Tauren doesn't know that his true identity has already been exposed by me. He even wiggles his butt and swings his bird at me, using that king of the world as the target. Test the power of the fixed cannon turret and dwarf hand grenades. Open fire. After giving orders to the engineers and archers, I turned around and left. Behind me, as expected, the 2 idiots continued to scream incessantly. Tumph, how dare you take a walk in front of me? Anyway, you're already in the legendary rank, and your life is tough enough. Even if you fall down, you won't die. It's a good chance to test out the defensive equipment. Yes, my lord. Actually, what I said was unnecessary. To an engineer, as long as they had the chance to test their own treasures, why would they worry about the life and death of their test subjects? The triple-mounted gnome cannons continued to fire, while the gnome grenadiers continued to throw grenades. With a whoosh, countless rockets were shot into the sky. While most of the people are skeptical of the new field of engineering, I, as a transmigrator, got the officials of Sulphur Mountain City to support the development of engineering in Sulphur Mountain City. The current Sulphur Mountain City, due to the existence of many master engineers, has become the sacred land of engineering in the entire underground world. This time, in order to maintain those Rolands, as a punishment for the previous incident, I brought them along. With the help of these master engineers, the temporary defensive system is being updated at the speed of 3 updates a day. It might seem like a cliché, but it's enough to get the meaning right. After studying the engineering system of this world, I realized that their main source of energy is still the energy crystals obtained from hunting magic beasts. Fossil energy is still a few hundred years away from being practical. Thus, I knew that engineering wouldn't be able to achieve much in the short term. Why? It's just the conservation of energy. If you want to drive a large-scale machine that is sufficient to hunt down a top-tier magic beast, you have to first use the energy crystal of a top-tier magic beast. Perpetual motion machines like the Titan's Heart can never be mass-produced. Furthermore, the gnome's crude use of fossil energy has given the majority of the people a bad impression that engineering equals explosion, thus hindering the spread of engineering. At the same time, a chaotic sound came from the entrance. I walked over and realized that it was the familiar Draken Bayphone. Herald. At this moment, he was carrying a gunny sack that was struggling non-stop, intending to sneak in. But, how could the Dark Elf Knight possibly let go of such an obvious criminal act? They surrounded him tightly. Let go of that horse. What struggled out of the gunny sack were 2 hind legs. I'm a centaur, not a horse. Right, there's someone outside. Save me. Save me. There's a kidnapper here. Hey, town security lady, I'm just following the guidance of my instincts and carrying out the duties of a hunter to hunt a prey back. This isn't your jurisdiction, so you can't control me, right? Needless to say, for a moment, the town security was at a loss for words. From a certain perspective, they really didn't have the authority to enforce the law in this city. Looking at this perverted hunter who could speak eloquently, I couldn't help but think of the perverted unit of calculation that the town security had recently started, Beifeng's demeanor. There are too many perverts in Sulphur Mountain City, but Beifeng's degree of perversion is still unparalleled, so he was used as the perverted unit of calculation. This Beifeng's demeanor was decided by everyone's votes. He himself was hated by everyone, so it was one Beifeng. That pervert who always seduces noble ladies only had half of his votes, 0. 5 Beifeng. The explosive maniac brothers had 0. 6 Beifeng, that ugly hooked nose, Eaglestorm, had 0. 8 Beifeng, and that Torren who always strips naked had 0. 1 Beifeng. Wait, why are they both perverts who have a habit of streaking? The difference between the two of them is so huge. They don't even have the ability to show themselves, they are the most detestable. Alright, that female dark elf Yorn's valiant reply made me blush with shame. Furthermore, don't be fooled by his thick looks. That Torren is very obedient, he doesn't retaliate when hit, he doesn't retaliate when scolded. He's strong and can withstand beatings, completely fitting the standard of a good man in our hearts. Actually, there are quite a few girls in the group who are interested in him. If he can get rid of his bad habit of stripping naked all the time, he might become even more popular. After all, no one likes their property, man, to be exposed in public. Alright, should I say, as expected of dark elves? Back then, I even took the opportunity to test them. That Roland, 10 Beifeng. I'm sorry, I know that he has a deal with the judicial system, and you wish to exempt him. But whenever we think of him, everyone's teeth itch with hatred. In the end, we unanimously set him as the highest value. 10 Beifeng, hehe, how is he second? 5 Beifeng. Of course it's 1 Beifeng from Beifeng himself. That bone must be a pervert with water in his head. Otherwise, why would he keep harming others without benefiting himself? Alright, when I thought about how I was labeled as an idiot with water in his head, that was 10 Beifeng, and that stupid Torren above me only had 0. 1 Beifeng demeanor, and there was even a girl who liked him, I couldn't help but get angry. Engineers, if you can't defeat him, then lock him up. If you defeat him, lock him up. Work harder, I want to see the results before lunch. Alright, the moment I said that, the firepower increased by more than 3 times. I slowly walked to the side of the Draken who was still flaunting his prowess. You guys, have you all gone stupid from reading the law? This isn't under your jurisdiction, but you guys aren't law enforcers either. Since you are all individuals, and no one is going to bother you, why do you need to consider so much when you want to beat someone up? That Beifeng was indeed alert. The moment I spoke, he already intended to escape. Incantation of law, sentence. Incantation of law, restrict personal freedom. As expected, the Beifeng who just completed the kidnapping instantly turned light red, and then, he was frozen on the spot by the following incantation. Beat him up. Perhaps, my command was unnecessary. The town security, who were already gnashing their teeth in hatred, had already swarmed forward. Those who kicked him were already considered polite, those who used whips, iron shovels. Looks like it's one thing to catch him in Sulphur Mountain City, but the rule of not abusing prisoners made the town security feel suffocated. While they were fighting, I was looking at the quest window worriedly. Daily quest, release dogs to injure people, send your underlings to beat up the people you don't like. The stronger the target, the more vicious the beating, the better the reward. Current completion rate, 2/3. Hero, do you think that as a demon king, I don't have loyal lackeys? If you want to meet me, first get rid of my left and right protectors, 3 sky gods, 4 heavenly kings, 5 Vajras, 6 guardians, 7 Arhats, 8 heavenly dragons. Ha ha ha, I will be waiting for you at the 99th floor of the labyrinth. You are still missing one, who are you looking for? Forget it, just find anyone. With this bunch of perverts around, do you think I won't be able to find a reason to beat someone up? Thank you. But, Can you take responsibility for me? A cowardly voice sounded beside my ear, but the content was inconceivably explosive. Even the town security were so frightened that they forgot to beat up Bayfong. Not far away, the gnome cannon stopped in shock. What? Take responsibility. Me. Luckily, the mask covered his face, otherwise, everyone would be looking at the awkward expression of his old bones dropping off. I looked carefully, and it turned out that I really recognized him. You are the one from the day before yesterday? That's great, Lord, you still remember. It is because of you that I lost the most important thing. A golden ponytail fluttered in the wind. Half of the centaur's body was still in the gunny sack, but the bashful blush extended all the way to his neck. Lord, can you take responsibility for me? I don't ask for much, as long as I can eat my fill, I can even sleep in the corridor. Faintly, I felt that the gaze looking at me behind me had changed, from respect to scum. Still so young. Could it be that Lord is also a specialty of Sulphur Mountain City, pervert? Still a centaur, his lower body is still that of a horse. Seems like Lord's tastes are the same as Bayfong's. No wonder Lord didn't find a girlfriend in Sulphur Mountain City and just fooled around outside. The perfect image in Momo's heart has crumbled. How disappointing. I thought that Lord was handsome, but I didn't expect him to be a pervert as well. Furthermore, he is a hypocrite who pretends to be righteous. My hate level has increased. At least 0.9 Bayfong. Actually, we shouldn't talk too much about our private hobbies. Lord is also a man and he has the freedom to choose his own hobbies. However, it isn't right to abandon someone after messing around. Diana, the town security team leader, is indeed very understanding, but I really don't need this kind of understanding. Voila. Hearing the sound of the rope moving, I hurriedly lowered my head. As expected, the ice magic thread just brushed past my head. Master, do you prefer Nanmu or black iron? I want to order it in advance. I don't need a coffin. Even though Eliza didn't say what material she was referring to, the frost on her face, the bloodshot eyes and the crazily twisting threads on her hands were enough to explain everything. What a picky customer. Then, just hang it on the cross in the paddy field. Not only is it environmentally friendly, it can also be used as a scarecrow to drive away pests. Under Eliza's summon, countless water vapor was condensed by her ice magic, turning into thin threads that brought death. As for me, I could only cover my head and scurry away like a rat. Centaur lass, I promise you everything. I will take responsibility. Hurry up and help me explain. That's great, Lord, you are willing to give Anya a job. Anya is very hardworking. Aya, after losing my job because of you, Lord, I don't know what to do anymore. Luckily, you are willing to take responsibility and find me another job. Take responsibility? After a series of exclamations, under the centaur young lady's explanation, the crowd finally understood that this was a misunderstanding. In front of me, the centaur young lady Anya, who was talking shyly while lowering her head to play with her ponytail, is the unlucky fellow who lost her job because of me causing a ruckus in the Platinum Order auction. She, who views her first job as the most important thing in her life, naturally couldn't forget about me, the one who caused her to lose her job. Originally, I found a job as a waitress in a restaurant the afternoon before yesterday. However, there was a holy knight who caused a ruckus there, saying that she wanted to arrest the culprit. In the end, she smashed the tables and chairs in the fight and ran away. In the end, the boss blamed me for not stopping her and wanted me to compensate her. Those female elf holy knight are so fierce, how would I dare to stop her? Holy knight? Or is it a female elf knight? This isn't Liu Huang Mountain City anyway. I turn my gaze towards the town security. As expected, the lass named Momo is planning to slip away. Catch her. Alright, a few seconds later, a mumbling dumpling appears on the ground. Damn it, what is wrong with punishing those slave traders? Momo is the one in the right. Yesterday afternoon, I found a job in the bathhouse. But, it was so scary. A bunch of perverts barged in naked to take a bath and after bathing, they ran out naked without paying. All of the customers were scared off and the boss blamed me for not stopping them, so I lost my job again. I silently turn my gaze towards those engineers. In the next instant, the intensity of the artillery fire increases by 3 times. However, yesterday afternoon, I found a job as a maid in the Lion King's residence. A few hours later, something bad happened again. It was so scary. A beautiful big sister suddenly barged in, saying that she wanted to borrow some scepter to take a look. Master didn't give it to her and they actually started fighting. Half of the Lion King's residence was destroyed. Does that big sister have black hair and red eyes? Does she have a dragon-like emblem on the left side of her face? The experiences of this centaur girl are too legendary. Even Little Red ran over to listen in. But, hearing Till here, she suddenly says with a stern expression, "Dragon Empress." After getting an affirmative answer, Little Red smiles. Her smile is filled with malice. It's her. Hihi, borrow the Eternal Night Scepter to take a look. I guess it can only be used to coax a child. The third reason that dragons often use for extortion is lend it to me to take a look. I'm just taking a look. But if I really borrow it, I can still return it. The third reason? Then what are the first 2 reasons? I heard that your family has a beautiful princess and that the boy in your family is destined to become a dragon slayer hero. Doesn't this mean that regardless of gender, it is a reason for extortion? Who made it up? So insightful. What a genius. Of course it is me who is born beautiful and smart. It is a pity that those bastards aren't willing to admit it. After I made it up, everyone has been using it. Some things can only be done and not said. Since you have already said it out loud, they would naturally feel embarrassed. However, since the weak alliance between the Dragon Empress and the Beastman King has started to crack, the Dragon Empress should have come alone. UN, send a message to Kaja and Edua. Perhaps, the third dog today will be very impressive and we will have a good harvest. Chapter 42. The reason why I chose to hold the auction 30 days later is not without reason. There are still 2 weeks before the Underground Alliance's biannual Alliance Conference. All of the big bosses of the Alliance should be on their way. Just nice, it is better to have fun together than to have fun alone. It is better to have fun together than to have fun alone. Going by the process of the Underground Alliance, joining the Alliance is very simple. As long as 2 underground autarchs approve of it, it is enough. However, just joining the Alliance is not enough to achieve my goal. A chance to make an impressive appearance in front of all the big bosses is a must. According to international practice, the new autarchs step on the old autarchs to ascend, defeat or tie. Perhaps, the old autarchs like the Dragon Empress is the most ideal stepping stone. After all, even though her individual strength is the strongest among all the autarchs and her subordinates are all elites, in terms of overall strength and influence on the entire underground world, she is definitely the weakest. This weakest is not even one of the strongest, it is still a fundamental difference. There is no other reason, it has nothing to do with her personal strength and strategy. It is just a simple political reality caused by the racial composition of the underground world. The few underground autarchs who have ascended to the top, their individual strength and their strength cannot be underestimated. However, what is even more difficult to look down on are the underground city lords who support them. For example, Einsterner, his individual strength is said to have just reached Saint rank, Kaja is at the middle of Saint rank, the Old Lion is at the pinnacle of Saint rank and the Dragon Empress overall strength has stepped into the semigod line, a whole rank higher than the other autarchs. Einsterner is the weakest among the autarchs, but he has become the core of the Alliance. He is the last commander of the Alliance's counterattack on the surface in history, which means that he has the last laugh. The underground world is always a place where the fist speaks. Even though his individual strength is indeed the weakest, his influence is the strongest. The 50 direct subordinates of him are already very scary, but the underground city lords who support him in the dark are at least 400. The reason? He is a human, at least on the surface. Thus, the other human underground city lords support him, it is that simple. The Elder Lion and Kaja are the same. One is the Beastman Emperor of the underground beastmen while the other is the High Priestess of the Dark Elves. Their potential supporters are immeasurable. From a certain point of view, They are the representatives of their race's benefits and the highest leader. Of course, most of the underground city lords won't admit it verbally, but their inclinations in private are unavoidable. When Sho ambushed Sulphur Mountain City, he was able to pull City Lord HNG, who isn't under his jurisdiction, to be cannon fodder. This is also the reason why when the Alliance goes all out for a single goal, in order to not become cannon fodder during the operation of the main army, in order to fight for more benefits, in order to get a piece of land with better sunlight, more underground city lords will seek refuge with the autarchs and stand on their side. The strength of Sho, Ainsterna, and Kajura's subordinates will snowball and they will become true autarchs. Underground dragons. The young dragons who are willing to listen to orders are already under the Dragon Queen's command. There are indeed ancient dragons and even immemorial dragons living in seclusion in the underground world, but can Molly, who is only an ancient dragon, command them? When that time comes, the other autarchs will rise in power, and the only one who doesn't rise in power, Dragon Queen Molly, will fall. She will probably be reduced to a high-level fighter. Thus, her pursuit of power is much stronger than the other underground autarchs. The temptation of the Eternal Night Scepter is much greater to her. Due to the constant fighting in the underground world, they would usually leave a sliver of mercy for those of the same race. However, the killings between the different races are bloody and brutal. There are quite a number of people who have blood feuds with other races. It is even said that the old lion himself was once a slave of a human underground city lord in the arena. Thus, the Beastman sovereign treats the underground beastmen well, but he hates humans to the core. As for Sulphur Mountain City, due to its multiracial structure, it might not suffer the inexplicable hostility of the other underground city lords, but it is impossible for it to gain the goodwill of those who aren't humans. Furthermore, due to the city lord being Adam Han, in the eyes of the exiled and the descendants of the exiled, a hero who saved the world is too glaring, making it hard for them to get along. Perhaps, it would be better if Anne, who was also born in an underground city, takes over. Then, even if they were to join the Underground Alliance and obtain the seat of an autarch, Sulphur Mountain City is destined to be a fringe force. Thus, I gave Sulphur Mountain City a position from the start, an X-stick, a smelly stone in the toilet. Yes, since it is fated to be unable to sit on the seat of the core, then I might as well add some trouble to the core. There are fringe forces and minority forces there, so by gathering these minority forces together, they can be considered as a force. If you want to attack the east, I will attack the west. If you want to attack the city, I will defend my home. This way, I can at least delay the bloody battle with the surface for a few years. If the undead calamity and the invasion of the demons were to start, it would be the turn of these idiots who are experts in internal strife and amateurs in external strife. This is also the case in history. The reason why the subsequent calamities are harder to deal with is because the previous few calamities in the world of Aishi have suffered heavy losses. Especially the ruling human kingdom. Despite having the largest population and the strongest overall strength, the internal strife of the humans, the internal strife of the cults, the invasion of the underground world, the invasion of the undead world, the invasion of the demons. Completely unable to play a role as a pillar of support, they were directly wiped out in a few wars. Of course, it is also because the races view the humans, who have the largest population and the largest territory, as a thorn in their side. In the original history, after the underground world and the human kingdom fought the Battle of the Bloody Plains, their population fell by 30%. Then, the undead calamity came at the right time. Shilluor Empire doesn't exist in the original history, only the Undead Wizard Council. They opened the gate to the undead plane. Thus, the two sides who were fighting fiercely just a moment ago turned into ants on a rope. In the more difficult days that followed, countless people speculated that if the human kingdom and the underground world didn't fight to such an extent and kept more than half of their fighting strength, perhaps the war situation wouldn't have gotten so out of hand. At that time, in order to deepen the thin ice of friendship and trust between the two sides, one of the remaining big shots of the Underground Alliance, the Queen of the Dark Elves, Victoria Saifan, even married the King of the Winter Wolves of the Ottoman Empire, Dasos. Because of this, they loved each other deeply, becoming a legend in history. It's a pity, it is said that Victoria Saifan is a rare beauty even among the elves who have many beauties. He. Perhaps it is because of this that the king of the winter wolves left behind his famous last words before the war: "You hate that I was born late, I hate that I was born early. What I hate the most in my life is that I can't forget you even at the moment of my death." However, marrying an unforgettable beauty back home and still leaving behind a grudge before his death, isn't he a little too discontented? How are we, old bachelors, supposed to deal with this? Master, you are so popular, how can you be an old bachelor? Even though the misunderstanding was resolved, the ice on Elise's face didn't show any signs of thawing. I found it a little strange. Strange, you should have known that it was a misunderstanding right from the start. Not to mention that it was half of the army, even if it was a beauty. What can an old man like me do? You are planning to take advantage of the situation. My roar wavered under the ice-cold eyes that seemed to be looking at trash. This kind of situation usually means that I have really done something wrong, but I clearly didn't do anything bad recently. Under the cover of the 6-4 moves of black magic on your bookshelf, as expected, you were the one who changed my Beach Elves album to a male goblin muscular album. Those naked goblins, I almost vomited on the spot. When I was exchanging appreciation with Adam, his gaze was even colder than yours now. That was clearly saying, so you are actually a perverted gay goblin complex, stay away from me. I even had the thought of banging my head against the wall and killing myself. Oh, so Lord Adam is involved too. Looks like I have to tell Lord Marguerite that it is time to clean up the illegal publications in the city. I am going to clean up the house today. Little Witch's Technique, Archmage Carl's Hunting Guide, not bad. But, Flame Explosion has arrived. Every time I read the title of the book, I felt a chill on my back. The artwork under the cover of those seemingly tight book titles are my lifeblood. They are the treasures that I collected with great difficulty in this world that is lacking in resources. Lord Eliza, please let go of those children. If you have any problems, come at these old bones. With hostages in my hands, I have no choice but to lower my head. You know very well what you have done. Please behave yourself. After saying that, Eliza bowed and actually left. In the past, after successfully making me surrender, she would be very happy. But now, looking at her drooping tail, this time, not only is she still angry, she is even in low spirits. Looking at this situation, and bounces over with a teasing smile and whispers into my ear. Uncle Bones, Big Sister Eliza is angry because of the gift sent from Morseblight City. It is a very beautiful dark elf big sister. Gift? What? The calamity that fell from the sky made me not know whether to laugh or cry. It is normal for dark elves to send gifts to build relationships, but I didn't expect that they would send a living person. Yup, an extremely beautiful big sister. And has never seen such a beautiful big sister before. Yup, I think she is called Victoria. What? Victoria? Victoria Syphan? Ah, Uncle Bones, you know her. So she is really famous. No wonder, such a beautiful big sister. However, and will work hard and drink a lot of milk. Big Sister Marguerite said that men like big breasts. Although that big sister is beautiful, she doesn't have any breasts at all. I couldn't care less about what Annie said. The moment I heard this name, 10,000 alpacas whizzed past my mind. What was this storyline trying to do? Why did they send the future queen of the Dark Elves to me? Without her as the queen, how am I supposed to reconcile with the surface forces? Is the butterfly effect so exaggerated? When I rushed over, I saw a beauty surrounded by a group of Dark Elf Knight. Thin eyebrows, warm eyes, eyebrows like a painting, alluring red lips, and the light red makeup on her made her look like a fairy that descended to the mortal world. She doesn't have the sharp aura and domineering manly aura commonly seen in dark elves, but she has the gentle temperament of a pretty daughter from a humble family, making one feel at ease and comfortable. She is the kind of beauty that makes one want to look at her more the more one looks at her. From a man's point of view, this kind of woman with the nature of a good wife and mother was the most difficult to resist. Moreover, if one were to insist on comparing appearance and temperament, she was even above rare beauties like Marguerite and Eliza. It was no wonder that her beauty was famous in history. No wonder the Winter Wolf King couldn't forget her. No wonder Eliza was so discouraged. She really is a super beauty. Furthermore, a virtuous wife and loving mother is my type. But the weird thing is, I instinctively feel that something is wrong. That's weird, I don't feel the urge to see a beautiful sister at all. Instead, my instincts are telling me that she is trouble, a huge one at that. Then, Diana's angry roar let me know where the problem lies. Victor Sphinx. Why are you here and why are you dressed up like this? Diana Sifan. Now, please call me Victoria Sifan. Now, I am a female priest Rose. Due to your irresponsible betrayal, Rose's wrath descended. As your only relative, I suffered from the vicious divine punishment and was permanently transformed. But fortunately, Rose discovered that I, who had turned into a female, actually had decent talent in divine arts. Thus, she made me her priest and saved my life. All of this is thanks to you, my dear sister. Facing her younger brother's seemingly calm but actually resentful questioning, Diana's face turns green. Her hand trembles and the silver avenger falls to the ground. The female knight's face is filled with helplessness and confusion, as though she is doubting what she did wrong. F***CK, it's actually a boy. Or perhaps, I was once a boy. No wonder I instinctively feel that something is wrong. Turns out that under the body of that peerless beauty is the soul of a male. Wait a moment, if I didn't build Sulphur Mountain City, then perhaps Diana wouldn't have betrayed me. At the very least, she wouldn't have betrayed me for such a long time, angering Lorsai to the point of personally sending down God's punishment. Then, could the Queen Victoria of history really be a boy? This is totally possible. In the Dark Elf's matriarchal society, males are definitely unable to stand out. To become a leader, disguising one's gender is a matter of course. Furthermore, the elves' natural beauty and the fact that it is hard to distinguish between a male and a female. Alright, I am completely embarrassed. This time, the number of grass mud horses rushing through my mind is twice as much as the previous time. Jun hates that I was born late, I hate that I was born early. No wonder I used a male pronoun Jun. Perhaps, the servant heard it wrongly. It should be Jun hates that I wasn't born a female. I hate Jun. You hate that I wasn't a female. Actually, I also hate that you aren't a female. No wonder the King of Winter Wolves hated himself for not being able to forget Queen Victoria before he died. He picked up a man who couldn't be refunded to be the Queen's wife in a political marriage. Yet, he still fell in love with him. Even before he died, he was still thinking about him. If I were to end up in such a state, not only would I regret it for the rest of my life, I would even have the heart to destroy the world. Noticing that Victor notices me, he nods his head slightly towards me, as though he is about to say something. Ignoring Diana's pleading eyes, I turn around and leave. The truth of history should be buried in history. An existence that can twist the Emperor of the Ottoman Empire, he is too scary. Chapter 43. Looking at the docile young lady in front of me, I felt conflicted. I had once thought that if I were to meet an important figure in history, would I be able to be like those seniors from the Transmigration era in the legends, making full use of the advantage of being a prophet to gain a huge advantage. But now that I finally met an important figure in history, and a super important figure at that, I was so conflicted that I didn't know where to start. Based on the saying of the mainstream Transmigration era novels, when facing an important figure in history, I should either try my best to hug her thighs and build a good relationship with her so that I would be rewarded in the future, or I should take advantage of the fact that the other party hasn't developed yet and shake my body like a tiger, shake her again, shake her violently, and throw a large sum of money at her to make her into my team, but the Transmigration era novels didn't mention this kind of situation. I don't need her to repay anything, and I don't need her so-called follower. Giving for free without asking for anything in return, to casually groom a potential enemy in the future. It seems a little silly. If this was a development that was delightful to see in the Transmigration era novels, I should laugh lewdly, then take out the candle and whip from my back, stretch out my hand and say, "Hey, your sister is in my hands, you know." But I'm afraid that if the plot were to develop like this, Eliza and the others, who are eavesdropping outside, would rush in immediately. Even if I wanted to commit a crime, I don't have the tools to do it. An inexplicable sadness welled up in my heart. Will of the universe, can we have a discussion? Don't use this joke in the future, It really hurts my heart. Alright, if this was a story that happened in a male forbidden dimension, at this moment, I would be smitten by her beauty and kindness. After falling in love at first sight, I would be mesmerized by her beauty and kindness, giving up everything to become her servant. In the end, whether I would help her regain her male identity or end up together with her, it would depend on whether the author chose to categorize the story as normal or beautiful. Of course, if the author wanted to be cruel, my fate would probably be miserable all the way home. If the author wanted to have a pure love, we might even have the identity of childhood sweethearts and a previous marriage. Then, our journey would be bumpy. It seems that in that dimension, the male protagonist never had a good life. Yep, if this was some kind of anti-Japanese drama, then at this time, she and I would take out our guns and roll around while firing. In the end, our clothes wouldn't even be torn, and we would be able to engage in melee combat without a single scratch on our clothes. In the end, we would see which unlucky Japanese side was the one who would be torn apart before our budget ran out. If this was the 8 p.m. slot in a certain country, Victoria would be suffering from leukemia, or getting hit by an ox cart when she went out, or being bullied by an evil mother-in-law. If the plot was filmed long enough, there would even be an old doctor who would jump out and shout, "Actually, you are brother and sister." It seemed like the ending was not bad. At least the female protagonist was the one who suffered the most. If this was a detective drama, there would be a scream coming from outside. Then, I could proudly shout that the murderer is right beside us. Then, I could start blabbering on and on. Yep, this seems like a good way to increase the word count, my lord. A gentle voice reverberates in the room. As the host, she had been in a daze ever since she entered the room. Although it was rude of her, Victoria made use of this opportunity to size up this mysterious man. His thick robe and silver mask might have covered everything, but at times, his heartbeat, gaze, habitual movements, and even the frequency of his fingers tapping on the table would reveal a lot to those who are good at observation. Victor, no, it should be Victoria now. She thinks that she is pretty good in this aspect. However, after 10 minutes, she still didn't manage to find anything. As expected of the great saint who created the power of law. There's no heartbeat, his gaze is reserved and there aren't any unnecessary movements. His entire being is like a withered tree sitting in meditation. I can't see anything from him. From Victoria's point of view, the reason why Wu Mianzhe was strangely calm the moment he entered was because he was testing her patience. While she was observing the other party, she was also being observed by the other party. Although the eyes behind the mask were dim, they seemed to be able to see through her. In the small space, the invisible pressure was still increasing. After more than 10 minutes, Victoria, who couldn't stand it anymore, broke the silence first. It was equivalent to taking the initiative to admit defeat in this little game of patience. My lord, do you have something to discuss with me? As for me, I didn't know that the other party had already thought of something. But, it was rude of me to call her over and leave her there to be distracted. Naturally, I felt embarrassed. Cough, can you tell me about your past? Including your elder sister. Even if it was to avoid being treated as a spy, Victoria wouldn't hide anything from me. Very quickly, I confirmed my guess. It turns out that Queen Victoria, male, became the female priestess Victoria, and this was all due to the influence of me, the butterfly. Previously, I took some time to look through the strategy book. Queen Victoria is such an important historical character, so how could there be any lack of relevant records? Then, I found a person who was hiding under the light. The epic hero, Moon Knight Diana. Yes, the leader of the city's comprehensive public security management team, Town Security for short, that I built out of interest. That silly knight who was always teased by me, according to the historical records, would indeed grow rapidly in the future war and become the general of the Dark Elves' Imperial Guards. She was also the most trusted general of the Moon Queen Victoria. Wherever the bright moonlight shines, all filth will be revealed. The female knight who was born as an evil elf crossed the boundaries of race and skin color to become the embodiment of holiness and justice. Reading till here, I was shocked. I actually turned the valiant and perfect female knight in the history into a person who would shout slogans and train punctually in the few decades of peaceful life in Sulphur Mountain City. Taking advantage of the rare sunny day, she would quickly change her clothes and look at the fresh snacks while gritting her teeth to hold back the urge to save up her dowry. But, personally, compared to an epic hero who has no sense of intimacy to speak of, I prefer a tomboy who is easy to tease. Cough. Seems like I went off topic again. Let's go back to the main topic. The Moon Knight is the Moon Queen's most trusted sword. Now that the reason is right in front of me, her only blood-related sister, naturally, she would trust her to the very end. From Victoria's words, I have more or less figured out the reason. If it was the Moon Queen in the history, with a legend-rank elder sister by her side, even a despicable male would be able to grow up smoothly in the Siphon family and come into contact with magic and the knowledge of the outside world. Facing the harsh reality and future, she would be able to make up her mind to change everything. Due to the fact that male dark elves are destined to be unable to rise to power, she disguised herself as a female and with the help of her elder sister, she gathered her own forces and gradually rose to power. But here, due to her elder sister's escape, he became the abandoned child of the entire family. From the lack of elasticity, it is obvious that Victoria lacks the talent to become a warrior. If she were to become a mage, she would need to spend money, an astronomical amount of money to burn. Being alone and poor, it would already be difficult for Victor to protect his pocket money from being snatched away. How could he possibly come into contact with magic? His lack of strength caused his position in the family to drop further and further. Hehe, it is really funny to talk about it. If it wasn't for the god's punishment turning me into a female and awakening my talent in divine arts, perhaps, I would already be the plaything of a certain matriarch on the bed. However, a small silver-rank priest is still the plaything of a powerful figure. Lord, now, I am your property. I wonder how you intend to deal with me. The young lady's face is filled with worry, but it makes her look even more charming. That soft voice that sounds like a plea for mercy can easily stir up a man's desire to conquer her. In an instant, I thought of the little drama that I just imagined. Hehe, your elder sister is under me, you know. My apologies, I misspoke. This face is too dangerous. I almost accidentally said the words in my heart. I look outside the door. There seems to be a commotion. Fortunately, even though I stopped, they didn't rush in yet. Then, at this point, I was truly troubled. According to my original plan, such a dangerous existence should have been thrown as far away as possible. However, Victoria was the Moon Empress in history. No matter if it was in terms of power or potential, there was nothing to say about her. It would be a pity to just let her sit around like this. It is enough to nurture an epic-ranked hero into a silly tomboy. If I were to nurture the Empress into a riceworm, it would be too much of a waste. You can follow your elder sister for now. However, I don't keep idle people here. Is there anything you are good at? I can help you find a job to do. A technique that male dark elves must learn to serve their father. Actually, it is suitable for both males and females. I have a very high evaluation in this aspect. Now that you are my master, if you have any requests, Speaking till here, the young lady embarrassedly lowers her head. The redness of her face extends all the way to her ears. Her cheeks are flushed and her elf ears tremble. It is really cute. This is already a rare moral principle among dark elves, but, excuse me, I stand up and walk towards the wall. Then, I use all my strength to knock against it. Pa pa pa. The entire building shakes. Not long after, this kind of earthquake happens countless times in this small campsite. The male comrades look at the big bump on their friend's head and smile understandingly. He is a male. Roland, hold on. Even if he is the most beautiful you have ever seen, he is still a male. Even if his body is female, he is still a male. You, Roland, are definitely not gay, Jay, definitely not. While muttering in my heart, I pity the famous king of winter wolves. Facing such a face every day, such a cute personality, it is too easy to turn gay. Alright, continue. What else are you good at? Let's not talk about roses. But, Lord, is your head alright? It's fine, continue. Looking at this man whose neck is ridiculously crooked after turning more than 200 degrees, Victoria can only sigh in her heart. Lord Wumian's he is really amazing. With his neck crooked at that angle, A normal person would have died long ago. Yet, he doesn't seem to feel anything at all. I am terrible at interrogation and poisoning. My instructor said that I don't have any talent. However, in history, strategy and military affairs, I am the strongest in the academy. I am also the strongest in the entire Morseblight city. Hearing this, I perk up. Studying history, he is the strongest in military strategy, politics, and history. He might even be the strongest in the entire Dark Elves. Then, I might really have picked up a treasure this time. Then, help me analyze the current situation of the Underground Alliance. That Eternal Night Scepter should be a trap set up by Lord UN. This Eternal Night Scepter was personally sent over by me. Sho felt immense pressure and even almost fell out with Molly. As time passed, the troubles kept piling up. This is obviously a trap for him. It wouldn't be wrong to say that it was a trap set up by me. If this is the extent of my analysis, the Moon Empress might really be blown away by the butterfly wings. Then, Lord, are you intending to ambush Dragon Empress Molly? If that is the case, please give up. You are underestimating the underground autarchs. This is a trap set up by them. Chapter 44. In ancient times, strategists would describe the other party's situation as extremely difficult when faced with a lord who is about to lose his life at any moment. Anyone would feel fear. When one's life is threatened, one would be even more vigilant. When a lord hears from a strategist that their life is hanging by a thread, no matter how disdainful they are, they would still pursue the matter to the end. If they find out that they are really in danger after a series of questions, they would naturally look to the strategist for a life-saving straw. As the strategist's opinion is taken more seriously and the crisis is over, the strategist's status would naturally rise. New opinions would also be taken seriously and they would quickly rise to the top. The so-called receiving orders during a time of defeat, receiving orders during a difficult time is probably referring to such a situation. This has nothing to do with the matter itself. It is just a technique used by strategists to attract the attention of a lord. The more skilled the strategist, the more proficient they are at this technique. Sir, save me, teach me. It seems that according to the script of this little lady, I should be shouting this sentence now. Then, she would analyze for me how the Lion King and Dragon Empress pretended to have a falling out. As long as we take the initiative to make a move, she would start a propaganda war and promote us as invaders sent from the surface and internal saboteurs of the Alliance. This would make the Alliance wary and hostile towards us. Then, she would personally make a move and force us into a corner. By then, it would be too late even if we wanted to leave. But if that is all, she is looking down on me, Wu Mianzi, too much. I understand. You should stay with Big Sister first. You two should have a lot to talk about. Facing my unexpected coldness, Victoria stands up agitatedly. Her face is anxious and she wants to say something. But looking at my expressionless face, she leaves helplessly. Eliza. If you don't come out now, your next month's salary will be gone. Master, please pay me last year's salary before saying such words. Eliza, what do you think of this gift from a dark elf? Lord, there is something fishy about this matter. Adjusting her glasses, Eliza moves closer to my ear and says expressionlessly, Nonsense, the kindness of dark elves is as barren as that lass's chest. I am asking you, what do you think of the Dragon Empress? My lord, the original proverb is the kindness of the dark elves is as false as the rationality of the beast men. Mocking her natural flaws is not the behavior of a gentleman who respects women. It will hurt her to hear you say that. Although she said that, Eliza's tone of voice was obviously a bit more relaxed. However, in my opinion, most of what she said is true. Reason? Intuition. Haha, intuition my ass. Don't tell me that you haven't received the information and analysis from the bystanders. As a diplomatic envoy, it was not good to be a blind person in a place where he made his living, especially in a place filled with hostility. As soon as I entered the city, my intelligence organization, Observer, split up and began collecting information. Based on my understanding of their work efficiency, all kinds of reports should be piled up on Eliza's desk by now. The Lion King and the Dragon Queen have really fought, and the fight is very intense. The news of half of the Lion King's palace being destroyed is not fake, but it is precisely because of this that we can be sure that it is just an act. Too fast? Is it too obvious? Yes, there are still 20 more days before the auction, so we can study it together now. Even if there is a conflict, it wouldn't explode now. No, it's just that. If they were to really fall out, the Dragon Queen, who is 2 ranks higher, would have snatched the item and ran away. Now that the scepter is still in the hands of the Lion King, it is enough to explain everything. Furthermore, the battle between the 2 top-notch experts should be the destruction of the entire street where the Lion King's palace is located and not just the half of the Lion King's palace. This is an act to tempt us to make a move, to make us the public enemy of the alliance. I nodded my head in satisfaction. What Eliza had said to her was exactly what I had in mind. From the start, our Sulphur Mountain City is an anomaly in the underground world. If we were to really join the alliance, it might not be a good thing for the current autarchs, especially the Lion King and Dragon Queen, who have a grudge with us. I can collude with Kaja and Edua and throw out the Eternal Night Scepter as a huge problem to divert the firepower and share the pressure. Sho and Molly aren't fools, and the tacticians under them wouldn't be so bad that they can't even see the situation clearly. Naturally, they wouldn't allow us to successfully join the alliance. Even if this matter isn't a trap, I only contacted Kaja and Ain Sterner. I don't want to be dragged into it myself. We are newcomers who don't belong to any race or power, so it is natural for us to be wary and guarded against. If we were to take the initiative to attack the Dragon Queen, then, as long as we spread the news of our ambitions and Adam's birth as an Earthling, the neutral city lords would be wary of us and view us with enmity. As long as the enmity reaches a certain level, coupled with the incitement of the autarchs, it is possible for us to be expelled from the alliance or even incite the wrath of the entire alliance. Obediently staying in the camp is the best option. Ayo, it really makes one feel helpless. Yes, as the auction and the annual alliance conference gets closer, the pressure on Sho will become heavier and heavier. On the contrary, we will be further away from the center of the trouble. Right now, doing nothing and waiting patiently is the most suitable method. Throwing the initiative to the opponent isn't a good habit. Inform those fellows that from tomorrow onwards, they are free to go on the streets and cause a ruckus as they wish. If they see anything they don't like, feel free to interfere and show the might of Sulphur Mountain City. It is enough as long as they don't suffer any losses. If they are unable to win, call for reinforcements. If they still can't win, then escape back to the camp. Even if the sky falls, I will hold it up. Hearing this, Eliza inhales a breath of cold air and her face is filled with astonishment. You are allowing those perverts to cause a ruckus? Allowing those single-celled knights to enforce the law on the streets? Allowing those fanatics of law to preach on the streets? You should know that this city is completely different from our Sulphur Mountain City. There are evil deeds everywhere, and if they were to cause a ruckus, it would be impossible to clean it up. Are you intending to tear down Vance City? In the underground world, the strong are respected. No one listens to the voice of the weak. I am only using my actions to introduce myself. Why don't I bring those bastards over to eat? Right, get the engineers to prepare for the Roland series of attacks and leave a few pilots on standby to provide support at any time. TSK, those old fogies who refuse to change their names are really awkward. I understand. Then, how should we deal with that Victoria? Let's wash her clean first. Alright, I will tie her to your bed after washing her clean. However, your body condition isn't good, so you might not be able to enjoy her. Do you need me to contact an adult goods store to purchase some tools? Stop bullshitting, you know what I mean. The goodwill of the Dark Elves. If these two phrases were to be combined together, the entire underground world would treat it as a joke. Dark Elves pride themselves on betrayal and deceit, so it would be weird if there isn't a problem with their gift. However, even if there is a problem with Victoria, it isn't impossible to solve it. Since a living person is sent over, then she is just a dead spy who might betray him at any moment or a live bomb that might explode at any moment. The only way to make Victoria obey the orders of the original owner is to use a magic contract and coerce her friends and relatives. Magic contracts and curses can be erased, the fuse of the bomb can be removed, the relatives and friends who have become hostages can be retrieved. The so-called wash her clean is a commonly used term for spies. It is nothing more than to make her spit out all of her secrets before seeing if there is a possibility of saving her. If there is a possibility of converting her, then try to turn the enemy's spy into our strength. You sure are meticulous. I thought that you would immediately give the order to erase the unstable factors. It is too easy to let her die from an accident, and her foolish elder sister shouldn't be able to influence your decision. Could it be that you have really learned to have tender feelings for the fairer sex? If it was in the past, facing such a gift of unknown origin, I would naturally erase it without hesitation to prevent any future troubles. However, if the Queen Victoria of history were to disappear just like that, it would be such a pity. Furthermore, since I realized that I had neglected Diana's potential, I naturally wouldn't allow her to continue wasting her time. In the future, she might become a very useful fighter. If I were to create a death grudge with her now, it wouldn't be worth it. However, it really isn't easy to explain these things to Eliza. Pretending to be the prophet of calamity is already my limit. To go as far as predicting the potential of a stranger to become an epic hero is too much. It definitely isn't because I find it too troublesome to explain it, that's why I came up with a bunch of excuses. Thus, I laughed it off. Don't say such silly words. You know that there is a man inside and I, Lich Roland, am definitely not gay. Page, who knows? Even though she said so, but from the way her little tail with a butterfly knot swayed when she left, Eliza's mood isn't bad. Perhaps, since the previous stock was discovered, I should go to the Vance City's underground book collection to replenish my stock. Since her mood isn't bad, she might let it go even if she sees it. What? No backbone and no goals? I also want to have goals, but other than satisfying my eyes, what else can I do? Looking at this unfamiliar and spacious room, I feel a little lonely. Shaking my head helplessly, I open the window and look at the lights outside. Scheming isn't the right path. However, it is a pity that we don't have enough power now. At the end of the day, it is because we don't have enough power. Adding up the fighting power of the envoy group, we only have 5 to 6 legends. On the other hand, those autarchs with hundreds of years of accumulation, under their full power, they are able to bring out 4 to 5 legend city lords. If we were to fight them head-on, we would still be at a disadvantage. The only top-notch fighting power we can bring out is Little Red, while the other side has 4 underground autarchs, and who knows how many of them are of the same level. If Adam and Marguerite were here. No, even if they were to abandon their job of guarding Sulphur Mountain and investigating the seal of the fire elemental god to really come here, it wouldn't be a good thing for us to stand out. Our overly powerful strength and identity as a different race would cause us to be surrounded and viewed as enemies. Adam, that fool, doesn't know how to act, and Marguerite doesn't want to compromise. In the end, there is an 80% chance that an all-out war would break out. Staying behind to deter the Lion King and the Dragon Empress from going head-on is the best choice. Sigh, if only 2 more top-notch fighting power would come. Just when I was complaining about the lack of fighting power, I didn't realize that this isn't the old house that I am familiar with. On the left side of the empty room, there is a small secret room. From there, I can use the peephole left by the original owner to observe the situation in the study room. What should I do? Lord Wumian's, he is actually that bad, Lich Roland. If I accidentally hear a huge secret, will Momo be silence? Momo doesn't want it. Momo still hasn't saved enough dowry to marry a husband. This secret room was discovered by Momo when she was in charge of investigating. However, seeing it as a pleasant surprise, not only did she not report it to the higher-ups, she even kept it for herself. On the other side of the secret room, Diana's face is filled with shock. Initially, she was just worried about her younger brother, but Momo said that she has a way to find out what they are talking about. Momo brought her to the secret room to eavesdrop, only to discover such a shocking secret. No wonder we were unable to catch Roland. No wonder Roland is always at the edge of punishment. What should I do? But very quickly, thinking about the city that she and her companions view as their home, the future Knight of the Radiant Moon steals her resolve. The dignified and wise Wu Mianzi is the core and foundation of the legal system. Nothing must go wrong. Momo. This matter must absolutely not be leaked to the outside world. Absolutely not. Ah! Chew. In the empty underground tunnel, the sound of sneezing reverberates from the walls of the tunnel, traveling very far. What's wrong? Ah dang, you actually caught a cold? The one who spoke is a female elf riding on a tall bone horse. Her luxurious robe extends all the way from the horse's body to the ground. Her black and white eyes are indescribably strange. Lying on a rattan chair on the back of the bone horse and reading a book, her leisurely expression is exceptionally eye-catching. Rather than saying that she is on a journey, it would be more accurate to say that she is on a vacation. The slowly moving bone horse is obviously not an ordinary creature. It is 3 meters tall and it leaves a trail of frost on the ground. At this moment, the bone dragon queen Gria, who is usually unfazed even if the sky collapses, is surprised that her usually ridiculously healthy companion would actually catch a cold. Daddy is thinking of Ah Dang. Daddy needs Ah Dang. Ah Dang wants to meet Daddy. The one who spoke is a short dwarf. His face is filled with pimples and he is biting on a drumstick-shaped food in his mouth. His eyes are lifeless and as he walks, his saliva continuously drips onto the ground, making him look like he isn't that agile. However, he only has 2 small legs and he looks like he is walking normally. From time to time, he would stop to pick up stones and knock away bird nests. Yet, he is walking faster than the tall bone horse. Is that so? Looks like what Lionheart said is true. As the first undead created by the Great Emperor, from a certain perspective, you are also the eldest son of the Great Emperor. You should have some kind of connection with the Great Emperor. Great Emperor, no, your father is there, are you sure? Below. Ah Dang can feel it, he is just below. Hihi, that's good. After this fortress, it shouldn't be too far away. The Underground Alliance's Vance. I just received news that Lamost and the others are already here. We have to hurry too. Otherwise, your father might be at a disadvantage. Whoever dares to bully Ah Dang will beat him up. Whoever dares to stop Ah Dang from meeting Ah Dang will eat him up. The voice of a dwarf is similar to that of a human child. That childish voice of threat doesn't seem to carry much weight. However, Gria knows that even if the one blocking the way is the legendary dragon Queen Molly, Ah Dang will definitely do what he said. If he were to eat her up, not a single scale would be left behind. Not too far away is the granite fortress of the underground tunnel. That is the checkpoint set up by the nearby underground city lord. In the past, it is also responsible for collecting tolls. However, today, it is filled with fully armed beastmen soldiers. Just as the 2 of them walk into the range of the archer's vigilance, in the next moment, the searchlight shines over. Who is it? We are in a state of emergency now. Following the orders of Lord Beast Emperor, all of the underground tunnels are sealed. No matter who you are or why you came to the underground world, please return the way you came. Gria assesses the Lion Tribe beastmen leading the group in front of her. After not noticing anyone special, she lies back on the rattan chair in boredom. She knows that after the meal in the previous underground city, Ah Dang has been hungry for too long. In front of the hungry Ah Dang, she doesn't have a chance to strike. Ah Dang is hungry, Ah Dang wants to eat meat. Looking at the little dwarf hopping over, the Sphinx sergeant raises his 2-handed greatsword warily. Don't come over, stand there and don't move. But obviously, the little dwarf is still advancing forward. The Sphinx sergeant raises his right hand and makes a hand gesture, signaling the archers to release their arrows. Then, there is no then, in a distortion, the dwarf disappears. What remains on the ground is the dragon's hind leg that was gnawed on. Arth! What kind of monster is this? In the spreading black fog, the largest black shadow fills up the entire tunnel. An unimaginably huge monster walks out from the nightmare into reality and the terrified beastmen soldiers have nowhere to escape to. A minute later, when everything calms down, there is only a huge crater left. Yes, the granite fortress and the beastmen in it have disappeared without a trace. The only thing left is a huge crater. How is it? Is it delicious? It is a little hard and it is a little hard to eat. Not delicious, not delicious. Ah Dang wants to eat delicious food. Then go to Vance. Your next canteen is waiting for you. Chapter 45. The luminous moss would forever hang quietly on the walls of the underground world, allowing the descendants of the exiled to have the right to enjoy the light. This kind of plant has been researched and discussed in the other world. The theory behind it is probably to fuse the genes of fireflies and moss, allowing the fluorescence of living things and the photosynthesis of plants to work together, achieving a low energy consumption cycle, becoming a self-sufficient light supply system, serving as a perpetual light supply system for the underground. The luminous moss itself can be planted in the mines to prevent mining accidents. Its derivative, the luminous moss lamp, can be used in public environmental lighting. Using the luminous moss to improve the energy structure of society. Although it sounds good, the technical difficulty is too great. Even if we can overcome the technical difficulties and forcefully combine the genes of plants and animals together, who knows what kind of monster will emerge? In the end, it still remains in theory. I didn't expect that the purely theoretical discussion that I saw in the science magazine back then would actually turn into reality in a foreign land. As expected, compared to magic and technology, which are always limited, the evolution of nature is endless. According to the records and research of the sages on the surface, this kind of strange plant that not only emits light, it can also emit heat. It probably has a series of prefixes and terms that people can't understand. However, in the underground world, it has a nice nickname that doesn't match its ugly appearance at all: sunflower. Every underground city is destined to be built in an area where the luminous moss gathers lush. If it is built outside the underground city, such a natural light area would attract countless ferocious beasts to fight for it. Of course, in recent times, the great Druil discovered the way to grow the luminous moss, which allowed the scale of the underground city to no longer be limited by the luminous moss. However, to find a super flying beast that can fly above the clouds and the great Druil to sow the seeds, the actual cost is still extremely high. Perhaps, only a natural strategic city like the City of Platinum is willing to spend a large sum of gold to continuously increase the area of the luminous moss and expand the range of the city. At this moment, as the light in the distance gradually brightens, very soon, the luminous moss here will also start to emit light. A new day has arrived. The physical body needed sleep to recover from fatigue and allow the brain to stop working. However, ordinary undead didn't have the concept of fatigue, so they didn't need to sleep. That was why I half-jokingly gave them the nickname of Wumianzi. However, upon reaching the level of an undead lord, most undead lords would pick up the habit of sleeping again. Some would say that it was to recover from mental fatigue, while others would say that it was to stop their bodily functions in order to recover mana faster and better. However, since I had nothing better to do, I did some research and discovered that there were better ways to recover from mental fatigue and replenish mana. There was no need to go into deep sleep at all. Losing consciousness was obviously dangerous. Through testing, the final conclusion was that many undead lords could move and rest like living humans. Those with perfect physical bodies were even able to regain their sense of taste and hearing. Most undead lords simply had an instinctive habit from deep within their souls. Their physical bodies would then instinctively mimic those functions. Thus, those artificial undead like abomination giants, gargoyles, bone colossuses, and so on, even if they became intelligent high-tier undead, they still didn't have the same habits and actions as living humans. However, the curious me made a small experiment. The reason why unnatural creatures like the undead are able to exist in the world is usually due to the crystallization of resentment and hatred. Unwilling to die is also a kind of temptation. What if pure artificial undead also had desires? Would they become stronger because of pure temptation? Then, let's start with the appetite that gluttony represents. Originally, I intended to imitate the 7 deadly sins and did 7 experiments. However, it was a pity that the 7 deadly sins weren't completely completed and they weren't mass-produced. It wasn't because the results of the experiments were too bad, but because the results were too good. The first carnivore Dang, the eldest of the 7 deadly sins, was already the most terrifying monster in the history of the undead. As my necromancy improved, the other deadly sins became more and more terrifying, to the point where they were on the verge of going out of control. Thus, after estimating that if this were to continue, I might end up repeating the same mistakes. Sooner or later, I would combine the knowledge of the two worlds to create a monster that destroys everything. Thus, I stopped. I admit that I don't have much talent in elemental magic. I am completely unable to learn magic resonance and the like. However, necromancy is something that I am able to learn easily. My talent in creation is so strong that even I am afraid of myself. As expected, mad scientists and the like are born to destroy the world. It was a rare dream of the past. Just as I woke up from my deep sleep, I was attracted by the sounds below. The noisy training and orderly chants of the town security were nowhere to be seen. Looks like they were following my orders to enforce the law on the streets. However, on the flat ground where they used to practice, there were still people sparring. The small empty ground was filled with traces of ice and flames. However, the main characters of this sparring wasn't just Eliza and Anne. Ice formation, ballista formation. Following Eliza's command, the dozens of ice ballistas behind her all shot out. The spinning ice ballista bolts were all concentrated on the target in midair. Anne, who was wielding a sword, summoned her flame wings. Like an angel of raging flames, she swooped down, trying her best to tangle with her opponent. However, even though she used the momentum of her dive to collide with her opponent, the other party only raised a finger to block it lightly, causing the blade of her sword to tilt to the side. The difference in their strength was simply too huge. The god sword couldn't even scratch the other party's skin. This was the difference in strength of at least 2 jobs. At this moment, the ice ballista was already in front of Little Red's eyes. However, she acted as though she didn't see it. She only shook her head, seemingly dissatisfied with the performance of the younger generation. Ha! With a loud shout, Anne and Eliza's movements suddenly came to a halt. Following which, they felt dizzy from the shockwave. Too slow, too weak, too powerless. Your elemental essence isn't pure, your physical combat skills aren't up to par, your footwork is loose, your dodging is slow, none of your movements are decent, and you want to fight with me on the same stage? Dream on. Finally, Little Red seemed to be infuriated. With a stomp of her long legs, the entire ground shook back and forth. Under the inexplicable shockwave, Eliza and Anne, who had yet to regain their balance, couldn't even stand steadily and fell to the ground. When the ice ballista arrived in front of her, Little Red just stared at it for a moment before it disintegrated in midair. It couldn't even touch her skin. Alright, the third duel, or rather, a one-sided crushing, lasted for less than 2 minutes before it ended. Looks like they are really agitated. That day, there were more than 20 legend rank and a few saint rank on the other side of the negotiation table. On the other side, there were only 2 young gold rank. Both of them were future city lords, but the disparity between them was so huge that no matter how open-minded they would still be agitated by this huge disparity in strength. This was also the reason why I allowed them to negotiate on their own. The cruel reality was also the most direct motivation. If the 2 of them were able to achieve a breakthrough here, with 2 more legend rank in their hands, this unbalanced game of cards would become much easier to play. Since you are watching the show from the window, why don't you come down and give me some pointers? I am really not used to the fighting style of you humanoid creatures. In this state, I am unable to display even half of my fighting prowess. Furthermore, the increase in your realms is even more inexplicable. It is better for you to teach them. The urging of Little Red beside me made it impossible for me to sit back and watch the show. Little Red is an expert in fighting and she has rich combat experience. Imparting her combat experience is very effective, but if she were to teach others, 90% of the growth of dragons depends on their talent. How can she be a teacher when she hasn't gone through cultivation before? She will teach you the flapping wings, combined claws and teeth, sweeping dragon tail, diving dragon breath, but are you able to learn them? It seems that Eliza can really learn a little. At the very least, she can learn the sweeping dragon tail. However, thinking about the half-demon maid who is getting more and more ferocious by the day, I decided not to shoot myself in the foot. Actually, I am already very clear about the problem of the 2 gold pinnacle. Their foundations have already reached the required level, all that is left is to form their soul imprint. That imprint is the crystallization of a mortal's breakthrough into the realm of legend rank. It is the accumulation of a lifetime's worth of experience and power, the cornerstone for them to step into a higher realm. Simply put, they have to determine the direction of their future development. However, when it comes to the specifics, it is completely different. Eliza has too many paths, but she doesn't know which one to take. Eliza, race, half-demon favored by the abyss, strength, 22, agility, 20, stamina, 20, intelligence, 24, charm, 18, will, 5, job, LV60 mage, LV1 law incantation, LV12 ice treader, LV10 saint pugilist, warrior monks who specialize in exterminating undead, LV5 assassin, total level, 88. Due to the lack of a soul imprint, overall level rating is 79 gold pinnacle. In the past 100 years, she has learned too many things. The ice magic that I imparted to her, the talent of a half-demon that comes from the abyss, the regular magic that Marguerite taught her, her self-created string magic, and also the thief and pugilist skills that she learned from who knows where. When I saw that the saint pugilist who is known as the undead killer actually has 10 levels, even my legs turned to jelly. After her basic abilities and attributes reach the required level, any of the paths would allow her to step into legend rank. However, sometimes, having too many choices makes it hard for one to make a firm decision. Choosing one path is equivalent to giving up on everything else. She is still hesitating. On the other hand, Anne's foundations are too shallow. The inheritance of the Phoenix allowed the speed at which her strength soars far surpasses the speed at which she accumulates experience. Finding a path that is suitable for her and has limitless potential is indeed a difficult task for her, who is not even 20 years old. It is hard for outsiders to help them in choosing a path that involves their future development. After all, only they know the path that is most suitable for them. This is also the reason why Little Red is in a dilemma. She is unable to make a life decision for the two of them. However, to me, it is not as if there is no way at all. We are unable to help them make a choice, but we can provide them with the experience of others making a choice for them to refer to. The path and experience of others is sufficient to serve as a catalyst for them to mature. Logically speaking, I, who has reached legend rank 4 times and formed 4 soul imprints, should have the most say. However, in reality, other than the seal of justice which represents the power of law, the other 3 were obtained by using the cheat-like system to squander experience and points. Furthermore, the seal of justice came from an even more unexpected source. It is equivalent to a gift from the origin of order after the invention of the power of law. Thus, it is impossible to use it as a case study and experience. Little Red, tell them about Adam and Marguerite's experiences in trying to break into legend rank. It should be helpful. Hey, you are the person involved. Why don't you say it yourself? I forgot and am too lazy to flip through my diary. In order to prevent my memories from being lost after death, I have always maintained the habit of keeping a diary. Currently, my diary has filled up an entire underground library. Furthermore, this is obviously something that happened too early and it would be too troublesome to look into it. Alright, I will speak. The voice that comes from the illusory sound spell seems to have an inexplicable sense of dejection. Shaking her head to raise her spirits, Little Red claps her hands. Marguerite's experience in breaking into legend rank is a little unique. It might be impossible to use it as a reference. Back then, when we were in the Kingdom of the Elves, it wasn't easy for us to get a library card for the National Library. However, it was only for 3 days. She was so engrossed in reading that she didn't want to come out. In the end, she actually managed to finish reading the entire library's collection in 3 days. Furthermore, when she came out, she was already a legend rank. The reason why she formed the Corridor of Time is purely to read more books. Her voice isn't soft. Not only did the other experts on the ground hear it, even I, who was on the 2nd floor, could hear it clearly. Since you have forgotten, just remember it once more. Other than looking for the information on magic that you need, the records on the treasures that Lisa wants, the information on the martial arts that Adam wants, and the information on the god equipment that I am looking for, she also looked up all of the records regarding the destruction of the Mist Country in the Kingdom of the Elves for you. Back then, you said that you owed her a huge favor. If there is a chance, remember to return it. This time, Little Red's whisper only echoes beside me, but I am stunned. The Mist Country is a country that I have destroyed in the past. Back then, one of the main goals of my adventure was to find out the ins and outs of its betrayal and destruction. I didn't expect that I would actually find out about it from where. It seems that those who lose their memories will never know what important memories they have forgotten. Death really does take away many things. While I am listening to her seriously, Little Red is speechless and bursts into laughter. As for Adam, Pooey, he is really a joke. Hearing the name of the famous city lord, the listeners are even more interested. Who wouldn't want to know about the past of this epic hero? Most of the people in the campsite are trying their best to eavesdrop. Back then, our adventuring team offended a bastard lord who believes in evil cults. In the end, he sent his men to hold back our holy knight Captain Rollo and warrior Adam. Then, he attacked our temporary campsite and captured the mage Marguerite and the thief Lisa, who were recuperating at that time. He even left a note threatening that if we don't come to so-and-so in so-and-so within 3 days, he will take XX hostage and kill them. Then, Lord Adam's rage exploded. Suddenly becoming a legend, then he came to save the damsel in distress. Although the route is a little cliché, it is indeed a classic. Perhaps, Lord Marguerite fell in love with him that time. The quick talker Momo and Diana are the only 2 town security members who didn't go on the streets to relax. At this moment, the 2 of them are also listening in. Back then, Adam was indeed furious. He raised his sword to the sky and roared, "Despicable and shameless scum, I will tear you into pieces, just like that paper." Then, he casually threw the letter into the air and with a flash of his sword, he sliced it into powder and allowed the wind to blow the powder away. Then, he looked so cool. Then, he met a strong enemy and fought with him. Then, he reached legend. No, the next sentence was, "Oh no, I haven't recorded down the address. What should I do?" What? Saying till here, Little Red is satisfied with the astonished and even dumbfounded gazes of the crowd. Wait, what should I do? What happened to Lord Marguerite and the female thief? It can't be, how can they be that foolish? What should I do after that? Shaking her head, Little Red reminisces about the past and continues. Yes, without the address, it means that we have lost the clue to save them. The team leader Rollo was furious. With a single slap, he sent that fool Adam flying 4 meters away, smashing him into a tree. That was the first time we saw Big Brother Rollo, who is usually gentle and polite to everyone, angered to that extent. Then, that fool Adam went out like a madman, searching everywhere. Found it. Found it within 3 days. Regarding her adoptive father, who is hailed as the perfect hero, and is a little curious. No, he only found it on the 5th day. Then, this time, everyone is shocked. No one expected City Lord Adam to have such a dark history. Doesn't that mean that the 2 hostages have already met with? Little Red shakes her head and smiles. What are you all thinking about? That is because Adam is still immature and unreliable, but that doesn't mean that Big Brother Rollo is unreliable. He spent 2 days and 1 night, from the lake, from the bushes, he forcefully gathered all 4,654 pieces. Perhaps, I should call them pieces. Then, he pieced them together bit by bit, forcefully finding the address. Then, he hurried through the night, exhausting 2 war horses to reach in time to save Marguerite and Lisa. After a long time, that fellow Adam then followed the traces left behind by the kidnappers to find his way here. Isn't that a little too unreliable? Indeed, when he saw that Marguerite and the rest are unharmed, he cried his heart out, crying like a child. After that, he learned his lesson and became much more reliable. At the very least, he knows how to plan before taking action. All right, the story is over. Ladies, did you all understand? The 2 of them nod their heads, seemingly in deep thoughts, before exclaiming at the same time. I didn't expect foster father City Lord to have such a dark history. Wait a minute, you still haven't told me how he broke through to legend rank. Back then, while hugging everyone and crying, he swore that he would never give up on his companions and that he would protect everyone well in the future. Thus, he formed his own undying phoenix and couldn't be killed no matter what, becoming a true cockroach. At this moment, Little Red's face is smiling. Perhaps, this is really the opportunity for Marguerite to fall in love with Adam. After all, every girl has expectations towards a reliable protector. No. The negative answer comes from the mouth of and who isn't involved in the matter. I once asked Big Sister Marguerite why she would fall in love with foster father. In the end, Big Sister Marguerite smiled bitterly for a while and said, "He cried too pitifully back then, thinking that if I leave him alone, he will kill himself sooner or later." After that, I asked her about it, but she refused to tell me. That crying too pitifully was probably referring to this time. Feeling that she couldn't leave him alone, she kept staring at him and unknowingly fell for him. Actually, it's quite romantic. Diana nods her head, only to realize that everyone is looking at her in shock. Why? Did I say something wrong? No. It's just that I didn't think that dark elves would have a normal view of love. Although this is obviously the consensus of everyone, no one says it out loud. Instead, they shake their heads in unison. This isn't fair. A cold voice of objection sounds from the side of the wall. It is Eliza, who has been silent for a while. How is it not fair? Clearly, it was Rollo who spent so much effort to save them. Why is it that Lord Marguerite would thank Adam, who was a hindrance, and even fall in love with him? Obviously, Rollo is the one who should be thanked. He pieced the paper together and saved his companions in a hurry, yet he didn't receive the gratitude he deserves. It's so unfair. Little Red is stunned. She looks at Eliza in shock for a long while before squeezing out a sentence. Back then, Lisa said the same thing. Then, she pestered Rollo, but Rollo didn't agree to it. Then, what happened to Lord Lisa and Lord Rollo? Rollo? He disappeared and left a letter saying that he found his enemy and was going to take revenge. After that, no one knows where he went. However, his desecrated corpse was found. It is possible that he has been turned into an undead creature. As for Lisa, she is dead. Dead. This time, Little Red looks at Eliza with a strange gaze. Yes, she died in the undead calamity caused by Lord Yunye. She died in the hands of one of the 4 heavenly kings under Lord Yunye, Bone Dragon Queen Grey. Silk. Eliza's eyebrows twitches. She doesn't know about Rollo and Adam's past, but she knows who Lord Yunye is. She wanted to say something, but since the person involved didn't pursue the matter, she doesn't have the right to interrupt. Why are you looking at me like that? Do you have any instructions for me? No, I just feel that sometimes, having a bad memory isn't necessarily a bad thing. Chew. Sister Grey. Silk, did you catch a cold too? It's Greer. How can an undead catch a cold? I am probably the same as you, being talked about by others. UN, perhaps, the Emperor is missing me. Hurry up, dang, we are almost there. Chapter 46. Grim is the son of the City Lord of Iron City. However, due to the fact that Iron City is in a state of war with the surrounding 4 underground cities, he spends at least half of his time on the battlefield. Rather than calling him a City Lord Prince, it would be more accurate to call him a professional soldier. Even though he is just a normal human with a small stature, the 2-meter-tall grey heavy armor covers his entire body. Outside of the strange bird helmet, one can only faintly see 2 bright eyes. Even though he has received the full authority of his father to come to this Vance where there is no war, he still brings his full equipment without any hesitation. The gold heavy armor that never leaves his body is just the basic equipment. The 3-meter-long spear on his back, the dual swords on his waist and the dwarf's gun are all placed in the most convenient position for him. Having escaped from the battlefield dozens of times, the little prince is already used to always being in a state of combat readiness. Prince Grim, actually, there is no need for you to be so vigilant. There is also no need for you to get your attendants into a battle formation. This is Vance, the city of platinum that is filled with gold. There aren't endless wars like your hometown here. The goblin merchant Ceros who is accompanying him feels a little helpless. He has long regretted his greed for that small amount of commission and easily accepting the mission to bring Prince Grim to Vance for the alliance treaty. Along the way, he has had enough of the prince's nervousness and war syndrome. It's no wonder that Ceros is in a bad mood. Burying a circle of gnome mines in the campsite is more than enough. As for setting up explosive mines in the campsite, fine, you should be safe this way. But why did you place a dummy on your bed? What is the meaning of sleeping on a tree? Every morning, when the merchant group sets off, they have to spend half an hour to find you. Even when they finally find you, they still have to be careful not to get hurt by the traps. You're asleep. The sentry on duty was kind enough to cover you with a blanket, but he was almost killed by you. You're too sensitive. I know that your hometown isn't safe, but you can be at ease here. There's no war here. After a while, the metalcan stretches out his index finger and shakes it in the air before placing it by his mouth. The smell of gunpowder. Lie down. Then, the iron giant fell to the ground, and his followers immediately knelt down at the same time. You, it's safe here. The goblin's screams were still ringing in his ears when 2 crimson rays of light whizzed past him. The deadly heat wave almost vaporized him. After that, the flames began to spread, and the buildings not far away were completely turned into a sea of fire. Dragon breath. It should be an adult red dragon. Prepare for battle. Grim immediately starts to move with his followers. They start to set up a temporary camp, use their luggage to build a barrier and assemble the dragon spear. The moment they entered Vance City, they are already enjoying such treatment. Goblin Seros is completely dumbfounded. However, this wasn't the time to be standing there in a daze. The next moment, 2 red dragons whizzed past above their heads. This meant that they were involved in an extremely terrifying battle. Then, a fatal black light tore through the sky. One of the red dragons didn't even make a sound as it spun and fell to the ground, leaving behind thick smoke and a rain of dragon blood. Boom! Minced meat and dragon blood smashed in front of him. The goblin merchant who was hugging his head with his hands couldn't bring himself to promise that this was a safe zone anymore. Immediately after, the other crimson dragon seemed to have seen a terrible nightmare and immediately fled. However, a red beam of light that was not much different from the previous black beam directly penetrated its head. Blood splattered everywhere, and the headless dragon corpse turned into a meteor and fell down. Arth! Before Seros could even scream out, he was stuffed back into his mouth by a large metal hand. Grim, on the other hand, looks at the sea of flames while trembling. It isn't because he is worried, but because a sensitive weakling has a natural sense of caution when facing a superior hunter. In the sea of fire created by the dragon breath, a gigantic creature slowly advanced as though there was no one around it. The surrounding beastmen soldiers who tried to stop it were as insignificant as ants in front of it. It was at least 30 meters tall and its 8 gigantic bone hooves were as sturdy and heavy as a steel tower. Every time it advanced, it would cause the surrounding houses to tremble. The gigantic skeleton beast had 3 heads and all of them were bone skeletons. One was the skull of a giant, one was a sheep-headed demon and the last was a bone dragon. The sheep-headed demon's head was still surrounded by black light and the flames in the mouth of the bone dragon were still lingering. Right now, the giant head seemed to have ended its long chant and it was time for it to perform. Polar storm, ice plains of giants. Under the secret spell of the frost giant, snowflakes fell and the ground froze. The vast ice plains became reality and the legendary home of the frost giant was summoned here. However, compared to the frost giant's physique that was impervious to extreme cold, the beast men were too weak. They were unable to put up any resistance as they froze and died on a large scale. The demonic bone beast Crimspur, the most dangerous bone monstrous beast in the world, the 6th senator of the Shiluor Empire. Why is it here? This kind of vicious battle form was the best calling card of an undead lord. Although it seemed to be moving slowly, it was actually a misconception caused by its massive size. A few seconds later, the 3-headed bone demons were already in front of them. The giant head even swept a glance at them. However, looking at the heavily guarded Grim and his guards, it only moved its chin in disdain and didn't stop its footsteps. Boom! Boom! Amidst the sounds of explosions and tremors, Crimspur advanced towards his next target. We were ignored. We were let off. Hurry up and leave. The sound of the beastman's catapults could be heard from afar. This battle of one man against an entire army was still ongoing. No one was willing to become cannon fodder for no reason. However, Seros pulled Prince Grim along as they escaped. 10 minutes later, the group from the Iron City who had successfully escaped were panting heavily by the side of the street. The old goblin had already figured out the ins and outs of the matter. Your Highness, it seems that in another 3 weeks, the legendary Eternal Night Scepter will be auctioned here. That is why the undead lords of the surface are fighting over it. Hehe, our luck is really bad. However, don't worry, we just entered the East Gate, the territory of the Beast Sovereign. Now that the scepter is in his hands, that is why we got embroiled in trouble. The other places in Vance City are all safe, you don't have to worry. Grim looked at the goblin silently before pointing behind him. There, a group of wild beasts were rushing past, knocking down countless passers-by along the way and uprooting innumerable stalls. The one riding on the head of a rhinoceros leading the way is a draken hunter. Behind him, there are countless pursuers. Bastard, to actually open the beast pens in the zoo and Druil's territory, you ate too much. What do you mean by you are an old vet? Hurry up and return my pet back. Liar. Little Snow, don't be sad. I know that you are sad about your husband's death. Look, aren't I very healthy and strong? I resemble your husband a lot. Accept me as your head wolf, I will treat you sisters well. The expression and actions of this person who is trying to poach are extremely sincere, making one feel touched. However, the person he is talking to is a female wolf and the harem he wants to take over is a pack of wolves. The dumbfounded goblin regains his senses after a long while. Wiping the sweat on his forehead, he says, "Hehe, there will always be a few liars and scoundrels. Our luck is really bad. However, the majority of the city is still safe." Grim shakes his head before pointing to the other side. There, a group of scoundrels is surrounding 2 elf girls, seemingly intending to do something. In the chaotic underground world, there are too many of such things. Old Ceros shakes his head, not intending to interfere, nor does he have the strength to do so. What a pity, these two should be the noble ladies who secretly escaped from their homes. I have never seen such beauty before, what a pity. But in the next moment, as though recalling that Grim's strength isn't weak and he should be able to save them, the old goblin looks at him expectantly. However, the other party shakes his head. There are too many people. It is a trap and the bait is male. The dumbfounded Ceros turns his head back to look. It is time for the trap to be reeled in. A group of dark elf female knight suddenly jumps out from a corner. Incantation of law, judgment incantation of law, judgment in an instant, the result of the entrapment is a large group of red. However, the target of the fair knight is the most red group. Other than the intention to commit a crime, they must have committed other crimes as well. Big harvest. I knew that it was a good idea to let Crosa and Victoria be the bait. Look, all of you are dressed as dancers and you can only catch 7 to 8 of them in one round. They don't put on makeup, don't throw flirtatious glances at us, just by lowering their heads and strolling the streets, they are able to catch 300 to 400. Look, those few who are well dressed are actually shining red. They must be high-level swindlers and villains. The security of this place is really bad, there are bastards everywhere. The criminal in front, stop right there. You are already turning purple from red and you still dare to run. I will count to 3 to stop right there, otherwise I will behead you. 1. You still dare to run, look at my broken shoe slash, oh, wrong, sundering slash, wrong again. Sin-splitting strike. Mitch, to speak the truth, losing to a man in terms of feminine charm is indeed heartbreaking. However, losing to the number 1 beauty of the judiciary, Crosa and Victoria, I don't feel sad at all. Have you seen women who are prettier and more feminine than them? Right, this time, it must be the record for the highest number of people being caught. Who is the record for the lowest number? Tell us, let's have some fun together. Vice Captain Yoren, 1, Captain Diana, 0. As expected of our big sister, she is so manly. Those rascals don't even dare to approach her. Phut, how pitiful. Even Momo has 16. Big sister is always so stern and scary. Coupled with her legendary deterrence and epic weapon, this result is normal. The most pitiful one should be second sister. She speaks like a man and looks like a man too. No wonder she is known as my blade is my friend. So it is just another way of saying that she doesn't even have a suitor. Right, this joke is not bad. Let's go back and tell everyone. It is better to have fun together than to have fun alone. Momo. Vice Captain Yoren is behind you. Ali, you tricked me again. Second sister, am I not joking? Smile, smile, smile. Why are you holding your blade? Looking at those female knight who are glowing with silver light, the old goblin was scared out of his wits. This is obviously the power of order. Could it be that there is a holy knight among the evil dark elves? But holy light should be golden, this is too subversive. However, it is obvious that these knight are different from normal holy knight. They actually ignore the demon kin and necromancers on the roadside. These are the mortal enemies that normal holy knight would fight to the death the moment they meet. This time, even the old goblin can only mutter to himself. The change is too fast. Looks like there are quite a few new residents here. However, at the very least, the goblins are still normal. This time, Grim only points to the side. There, the dwarfs and goblins are testing a rocket carriage with a huge rocket engine attached to its back. This harmonious scene is like a bolt from the blue in Ixrotha's eyes. What kind of joke is this? The goblins are actually working together with the leprosy dwarfs. Those traitors of the goblins, let old Ixroth teach you a lesson. However, just as he was about to step forward to provoke them, he was pulled back by his companions. Fortunately, he was pulled back. The moment the rocket carriage set off, it starts to drift upwards and floats over everyone's head. Then, it turns into a shooting star and flies straight towards the ceiling. Then, with a loud pah, it turns into fireworks. It is all because that stupid ball is too heavy, causing us to increase the horsepower too much, causing it to fly instead. We need a lightweight experimental subject. No, a pilot. Row, at this moment. Shouldn't you all display the spirit of sacrifice that you goblins have for the development of engineering? My survival is the greatest contribution to the goblin project. Where can I find a stupid goblin? Oh, this friend of mine. May I know if you are interested in the goblin rocket carriage? Obviously, if he were to nod his head at this moment, Ixrotha's 30 years of being a merchant would have been wasted. After finally getting rid of the troublesome goblin engineer, old Ixrotha's face is filled with fatigue as he sits on the stairs and smokes on his pipe. This world is changing too quickly. Perhaps, a bunch of lunatics might start running around naked. Eaglestorm and his tribesmen run past the crowd. They came and left stealthily, waving their hands lightly to bid farewell to the shocked spectators. Not taking away a single cloud, not leaving a single piece behind. They aren't wearing anything, so what can they leave behind? The old goblin rubs his eyes in a daze. Inconceivable. Whatever I say comes true. It can't be that we will meet the senators of the undead empire. Not far away, the sound of horse hooves can be heard. Ah dang, do you feel anything? We have been searching for a week. Is the emperor really in this city? Our pa is here. Our dang is sure. 2 undead senators ride on a bone road, black-eyed white-eyed pupil. It's the bone dragon queen. Later on, even if a titan were to pass in front of me, I wouldn't be surprised. Pa. After a loud sound, the tea stall in front of them turns into flat ground. A humongous metal titan whizzes past the eyes of the crowd. Behind the huge robot, the humongous Roland titan is shining. Shut up. This time, even the cold and reticent Grim can't stand the old goblin's jinx. Thanks to those troublesome goblins, most of the spies have been lured away. Our private communication with the other underground city lords is going smoothly, and there are already 27 underground cities willing to support us in the Alliance Conference. In the afternoon, we will have 3 more contacts. You will definitely have to meet the underground autarch Edua personally. There is also a prince named Grim who is rather famous and has already expressed his goodwill to us. It would be best if you meet him personally as well. I nodded my head, indicating my approval. It was also time for me to meet Edua personally. It was said that the Black Iron City was also a city formed by many races. I was originally quite interested in it, so there was no harm in meeting him. Within a week of entering the city, there was a live demonstration by the Dark Elf Knight Corps. Without a doubt, the power of law has become a rare treasure in the eyes of the underground city lords. With this as a stepping stone, our alliance conference went smoothly. Seeing that I have agreed, Eliza continues her report. Within a week, the Lion King's residence has been demolished 12 times. Now, there are no buildings there, only a crater. According to the latest news, Shiluor's 6th senator, Crimspur, has appeared. His old partner, decaying Ant King, Ramstein, should be here as well. Has the undead lord and the underground autarch crossed hands? They didn't cross hands directly. Looks like both sides are still probing each other. Crimspur demolished 2 barracks and a street in the Beastman district. However, from start to finish, only Molly's red dragons made a move. Furthermore, they are 2 young dragons, so killed in an instant. That's normal. Crimspur is an undead from the previous generation left behind in the War of Gods. He has always been ambitious and has been eyeing the position of the undead emperor for a long time. He really isn't easy to deal with. However, his probing should have yielded results. The scepter is in the hands of the Dragon Empress. That is why Molly is willing to send the young dragons as cannon fodder. It seems like we have to re-evaluate the relationship between the Dragon Empress and the Lion King. To think that she is willing to hand the scepter over to the other party for research, hey, looks like their alliance is indeed stronger than we thought. Ahahaha, don't worry, everything is under control. I laugh maniacally. However, Eliza is a little hesitant. Master, there are some things that I don't know if I should say. Am I a petty person? Just say it. We are out of money. If you don't think of a solution, we might have to live on the streets. What? Hearing that, I exclaim in shock. I remember that we should have sufficient funds when we came. At the very least, it should be enough for us to live here for 3 years. You told those fellows that they can call for reinforcements if they can't win, and they really did it. This week, they called for reinforcements more than 60 times. The expenditure of magic stones, the replacement of the body parts, and even the purchase of new machines are not a small sum. Furthermore, all of these are outside of the budget. I nod my head, agreeing with Eliza's report and the excess expenditure. I didn't expect that we would prepare so many Rolands. It is normal for us to overspend now. Furthermore, engineering is a money-burning profession, and that big fellow is even more so. It is reasonable for us to run out of funds so quickly. Hehe, it is fortunate that I have already made preparations. Come, let me introduce you to my new baby. It is called Greed. Isn't it cute? On the experiment table, there is a small transparent bottle. Within it, a strange viscous liquid is boiling. It seems to be trying to break through the seal of the bottle, but it is reflected back by the electric shock of the seal. Really disgusting. White and sticky. As expected, it is the same kind of thing that your brain uses to think. Eliza says with a face full of disgust without any hesitation. She is just mocking me for using the lower half of my body to think. This level of venomous tongue is something that I have experienced countless times after my collection was exposed. I am already numb to it. Instead, I smile gleefully. That is because you don't know its effects. Don't look down on its small size. As long as it fuses with the underground water of this city, it will frantically reproduce itself and create countless clones. In just a few hours, this milky white slime will fill the entire city's underground pipes and water supply system. Even more disgusting. I beg you to stop talking. What do you intend to do? TMPH, you don't know what is good for you. It is called greed. It will instinctively search for gold coins and swallow them before bringing them back to its mother's body. This way, we won't be lacking money. Going by convention, even if there is a rare treasure as the finale, the auction house would at least bring out a few items of the same level to warm up the crowd. I don't expect to meet another god equipment, but as long as the Lion King doesn't intend to embarrass himself, there will definitely be other good items in the auction. Thinking about the auction that is about to be held, I decided to gather more money to buy some local specialties. Coincidentally, I had a dream about our Dang's creation experience previously, so I turned my attention to the undead creation that I am most proficient in. The greed in front of me is the result of a week of hard work. Mutated slime, greed race, undead slime all stats, 1 race ability, devour reserves, secrete fibrous decomposition fluid, rapid self-replication system evaluation, extremely dangerous. Please destroy the mother's body as soon as possible. If this thing were to go out of control, not just this city, the entire underground world will disappear. By the way, please stop creating things. Your talent in this aspect is completely wrong. If you continue, you will be able to destroy the entire world by yourself even without the calamity. It seems to be contradictory. Despite having such a trashy ability, the system is actually afraid of it. It is an existence that lies between life and death. To living beings, the simpler and purer their needs are, the stronger their desires. This greed represents endless greed. In my settings, gold coins, mithril and other precious metals are the meaning of their existence. The simpler a living being is, the easier it is to replicate. Replication of a single cell consumes very little energy. Following the settings of its creator, it will replicate itself frenziedly and steal gold coins. It doesn't have any offensive capabilities. The only thing it can do is to sneak into the tightly guarded treasury and corrode the sacks filled with treasures to steal the gold coins and precious metals. However, I can understand the system's worry. If greed really goes out of control, as long as it replicates to a certain extent, countless slimes will be able to occupy the entire living space, leaving no place for humans to live. Of course, the prerequisite is that it can replicate endlessly. Look, this jar is its main body. I will only release a tenth of it, so its reproduction ability and size will be limited to a tenth. Furthermore, its lifespan will be limited too. All of them will die within 2 days. At most, they will just be gold coins thieves. While explaining, I carefully pour greed into the sores. Suddenly, a gust of wind blows past. For some reason, my nose, which doesn't feel anything, feels itchy. Chew, who is thinking of me? Master. Eliza's exclamation jolts me back to my senses. At this moment, half of the main body of greed has already entered the sores. Very quickly, following the complete drainage system of this 1,000-mile ancient city, after combining with the underground water to complete its replication, it will swiftly cover the entire city. Don't worry, the other half is that greed will be a little stronger than expected. How much stronger? Will it hurt people? If its size is 5 times bigger than what it was designed to be, it should be around the size of a human. Based on its AI settings, it will change its attack mode. It might choose to swallow a person, melt his clothes and take away his metal. Don't worry, I have set it up so that greed will definitely not harm any living being. It will leave after eating the clothes. Eat the clothes? The entire city. A terrifying scene appears in Eliza's mind. Countless eagle storms and shueti are dancing in circles and more perverts are spreading. Master, please hurry up and research a way to eradicate this kind of demon. Chapter 47. The Alliance gathering that was supposed to be held next week was postponed indefinitely due to some unforeseen circumstances. The reason? The empty city streets are the reason. The streets that were filled with people are now empty and the only thing cruising around is the transparent slime that is a meter long. Don't come over, I am only going out to buy vegetables. Yet another innocent victim is born. When the surrounding slime leave in satisfaction, a naked beastman auntie carries a bamboo basket and runs madly. Her fats sway and her sweat falls like rain, making her look extremely greasy. Wherever she passes by, the sound of vomiting can be heard. This is the 3rd time that female beastman hippopotamus is here. How is this an accident? This probably gave some people a chance to release the wild beast in their hearts. Due to the sudden rampage of the creepy slime group, Vance falls into a state of paralysis. These little things aren't hard to deal with. Although the slimes have high resistance towards physical attacks, they have no resistance towards magic and divine arts. Thus, it isn't hard to deal with the experts of the underground world. But, you might be able to deal with one, but can you deal with 10, 100, 1000? There is no end to these things. Furthermore, if you are careless and allow them to get close to you, your armor will be torn into pieces and your clothes will be eaten away. Not even your bones will be left. How much fighting power do you have if you are completely naked? Yes, no matter how strong you are, as long as you dare to wear clothes on the streets, it is guaranteed that you will be crushed by the slimes in an instant and become clean. An archmage sets up a wall of fire beside him and wraps himself in the high temperature of the flames. At the start, quite a number of slimes were eliminated. However, 6 hours later, his magic power is depleted and he ends up becoming clean. However, his attempt proves that these creatures are indeed brainless and their numbers are limitless. Fortunately, very quickly, their weakness is discovered. They are able to corrode cloth and take away metal, but they are helpless against wooden materials. In fact, they even instinctively fear wood. As long as a wooden stick is placed around the doors, windows, and water outlets, they will retreat. This is the backdoor left behind by a certain Lich, but this still didn't solve the problem. You can't wear a pile of wood on the street, can you? So, the whole city retreated in front of this tiny slime and fell into a strange paralysis. They had no interest in naked people, but not everyone could awaken a new self like Auntie Hippo. The lives of the citizens were greatly inconvenienced, but at this moment, there was a group of enthusiastic and helpful youths pushing wooden carts and walking on the streets without any fear. They helped people buy groceries, run errands, and accept bookkeeping services. They even called for volunteers to join their luggage. The natural body bestowed by the heavens is perfect. Unnatural clothing is the original sin. What is wrong with liberating oneself? The liberation of the celestial body took the opportunity to spread their teachings. Now, those who join the organization have the privilege of buying wooden carts at a membership price. Each person is limited to one. When more and more youngsters acknowledged the strange doctrine and saw the sky slime as a kind of heavenly punishment that targeted clothing, which was an unnatural creation, the liberation of the celestial body with the Wild Bull Alliance as the core grew at a terrifying speed. Countless youngsters who chased after money, awakened a certain kind of potential or simply acknowledged this strange doctrine walked on the streets naked, fighting for the sake of their future gold coins or doctrine. Of course, even so, the losses were not small. Before the weakness was discovered, the treasury and merchants who suffered from the calamity also suffered quite a bit. A certain Lich. Why did you announce the weakness? Can't you reap more later? A certain maid. Shut up, hurry up and find a way to cure the root of the problem. Isn't cleaning up your own mess your motto? But even so, the normal operations of Vance City were still severely affected. At the very least, the Alliance conference that was postponed and the naked underground city lords were like countless smiling faces, mocking the dignity of the underground autarchs. When the autarch's patience reached its limit, even the proposal to completely destroy the city and the underground network to rebuild the city was proposed. A sudden piece of news spread across the entire city, causing everyone to go wild with joy. According to the research of the leader of the liberation of the celestial body, Big Druil, and the authoritative old doctor, Beast King specialist, Bayfeng Herald, these slimes only have a total lifespan of 10 days. Now, there is still 4 to 5 days before they wither away. The entire city cheered excitedly, but no one questioned why these two unknown newbies were able to come up with such a conclusion when even the top-notch great mage was helpless. But at this moment, the one who heaved a sigh of relief is probably the Lion King himself. The Alliance conference was postponed so that we can share the responsibility together. If the auction is unable to be held as scheduled, the Devil's contract might come into effect and he would be pulled into the river Styx, ending all his troubles. Oh, it can be done like this. I clapped my hands. Such a simple move could have killed the Lion King and I actually let it slip by accident. Actually, it isn't too late yet. Let me send the remaining greed down and it will cause another 10 days of trouble. No, turn into the complete body of greed. Its individual strength would increase by at least 10 times and its lifespan would be limitless. If this goes on forever, the Lion King would definitely not be able to hold the Alliance conference. Rejected. The underground world will also be destroyed because of this. She was wrapped in a bikini made of 2 banana leaves, and her arms were wrapped around her chest, unable to cover her exposed body. As she spoke, she kept stomping her feet, and her little tail kept slapping the ground. It seemed that everything that had happened recently had made Eliza unusually irritable. After the processed silk and fiber clothes can no longer be worn, rattan clothes and leaf clothes have become the most popular styles recently. What, I fell for it too. Is it foolish to step into my own trap? If the others step into the trap, but you don't, doesn't that mean that I'm the one who set the trap? Besides, my creations aren't that weak and weak. They won't let you go just because you're my people. This isn't something to be proud of. Why are you the only one who still has clothes to wear? Yes, the current Sulphur Mountain City's envoy camp, due to the early onset of the calamity, it happened right after I fell, is the most severely affected. Now, there aren't many who have leaf clothes to wear here. I am the only one who still has a complete set of clothes to wear. Do you want to hear the truth or a lie? The lie is that I am wearing a semigod equipment set, so they are unable to approach me at all. The truth. High-tier equipment is unable to corrode, but they won't stop attacking. Even though my entire body is sticky with slime fluid, I am still unable to wear it. The truth is that they remember that you are their father, so they won't attack you. No, how can my creations have such a foolish flaw? Their attacks are based on instinct, so they are indiscriminate. Look, this is a sprayer made from wood powder mixed with liquid. As long as it sprays on your body, they, who are instinctively afraid of wood, will definitely not approach you. Hey, I am sorry that I forgot to give it to you, but we are all civilized people here, so don't be violent. Put down that table leg. Alright, under the threat of violence, I admit that I didn't forget to give it to her, it was just for eye candy. However, it is a pity that if I confess, I will be sent to jail for life. But if I admit it honestly, it will bring about Eliza's wrath. Next, it is time for the long-awaited wrestling exchange. After a while, the panting Eliza sits on my spine and asks me, who is already lying on the ground. Have you researched the method to eradicate it? I researched it. It's so awkward, my old bones are about to break. Then why aren't you doing it? Could it be that your heart has softened? Gathering the ingredients and setting it up will take at least a week. This time, I swear on the river Styx that I am not lying. The antidote will take a week. 5 days later, the slime calamity would automatically end, yet, she did useless work, forcing her master to research the antidote. This series of equations forms in her mind. Then, the young lady flies into a rage out of humiliation. Catcher. This is the crisp sound of my thigh bone breaking and Eliza's rationality snapping. That day, I witnessed the terrifying physical strength of a half-demon paired with a holy pugilist. I am not foolish enough to leave the main body of greed in the camp. That is equivalent to someone chasing after the stolen goods. The main body is placed in the deepest part of the underground network. Its countless children are its best guards. But unexpectedly, there is an additional volunteer guard. When the first gold coin was brought back to the main body by the slime, the first one to look for me is actually Little Red. After she understood the ins and outs of the matter, she took the initiative to request to be the guard of the treasure vault. The reason is, I am used to sleeping on the treasures. I have been suffering from insomnia for so many days, it is about time for me to have a good sleep. Alright, I know that it is an excuse. Going by our unspoken rules, since both of us contributed, it is inevitable for us to split the loot. However, with her guarding the main body, I am at ease. At the very least, if we really meet with a tough opponent, Little Red's speed of escaping with the money is still trustworthy. Now, the only thing I need to worry about is the problem of disposing of the stolen goods. However, in the underground world, this is probably the least of my worries. Alright, the past has been settled. What I need to face now is the Alliance Conference. When the slime army starts to wither and die as expected, just as everyone heaves a sigh of relief, the underground autarchs impatiently send out invitations for the Alliance Conference. A gathering of primitive humans. Do the underground city lords know how to dance the hula dance? Just when the streets and alleys were already in a heated discussion, the formal attire that was sent along with the invitations made those unlucky underground city lords feel thankful for the thoughtfulness of the organization. At the same time, they heaved a sigh of relief. Clothes that can still be worn in the market are already sold at sky-high prices. It isn't easy to buy them. However, at this moment, the most sought-after item on the market isn't the lack of clothes but the learning materials for the power of law. Are you still worried about the invaders and the magical beasts that are constantly harassing you? Here is the nemesis of the lawless, a senior of the holy light. Even the undead, monkeys and half-demons are able to grasp the new era's power of law. It isn't 3 to 4,000, not 1 to 2,000, it is really just 998. The workmanship of the 8 stars 8 arrows, 99 main functions, the ability to communicate with the origin of order doesn't need money, the ability to control law incantations doesn't need money, and it can really shine. Don't hesitate anymore, come to the Sulphur Mountain City Envoy Camp to place your order. Also, the first 100 who buy it will receive a second chance at the lottery. The pages of the God Equipment Grimoire will be sent to your home. Hihi, do you know how to judge? Judge men. Mom doesn't need to worry about me failing my law incantations anymore. Grandma, my dream of becoming a holy knight has come true. The power of law is trustworthy. In order to make it easier for our customers to grasp and learn it, other than the basic pack of 998, we have also prepared 9998 Deluxe Edition for the noble and stylish you. Of course, if you still think that this isn't enough to represent your cool status, we also have 19998 Perfect Deluxe Edition. Along with it, we will also give you a lottery card to participate in the second lottery of the God Equipment Grimoire. What are you hesitating for? Our address is at Vance 32nd District, Torrens Street 88. First come first serve. You are welcome to buy it. After earning a fortune from me, I am looking forward to the upcoming Alliance Conference and auction. Master, didn't you only bring a few hundred copies of the same information? Those Deluxe Edition and Perfect Deluxe Edition. They are all the same, exactly the same. Aren't you afraid that they will settle the score with you? Hehe, Eliza, you are still too inexperienced. You have to study the shopping mentality of those underground city lords. Those who are willing to fork out 998 diamonds to buy information wouldn't mind paying another 998. What, you think that 998 is gold and not diamonds? Guards, chase this country bumpkin out. The moment these words are said, no matter how expensive it is, those spendthrifts who love their face will buy it. Do you know what is called an overlord and an ambitious person? An overlord is a big shot, the boss. No matter what they buy, they will buy the most expensive and not the best. What they want is their face. Look, those 4 overlords bought the Perfect Deluxe Edition. If others were to find out that they bought the normal Deluxe Edition, they wouldn't be able to afford it. So, our sales slogan is not to ask for the best but to ask for the most expensive. Once a deal is made, we won't have to open for 10 years. You are really crafty. Thank you for your compliment. Chapter 48. As a city that has gone through thousands of years of changes, a place where many races live together. Following the renovation and reconstruction of its previous owners, the streets of Vance are messy and disorderly. The originally square-shaped city district has changed beyond recognition after countless expansions. The goblins came and they built their alchemy laboratory, engineering laboratory, and a large-scale racetrack across the city. The beast men came and naturally, they built an arena to witness blood and glory. When the elves came, they built a huge theater and man-made forest. When the mags came, they built a towering mage tower that reaches the clouds. Both sides of the streets are filled with buildings of various styles and ages. The solemn dwarven Baroque-style architecture, the mysterious and sorrowful dark elf Gothic architecture, the goblin style that is a mixture of metal and smoke can be found here. In fact, due to the residence of Druil and the Dark Shaman, the modern and relaxed surface elf pastoral style can also be found here. Perhaps, Sulphur Mountain City, which also has many races living together, has the potential and vitality to become such a famous historical city. However, in front of this ancient city, it is still too young and impetuous. The trend of the new era and the sedimentation of history intertwine with one another. The ethnic clothing and specialty stalls on the streets can be seen as scenery. The charm of the gathering of many races and cultures in this ancient city is displayed to its fullest. From a certain perspective, it shows the ancientness and changes of the city of Platinum. Now, along with the changes of the times, the original orderly and organized design of the city has long disappeared. Time and history have divided the various districts into countless valleys with irregular patterns. Following the Underground Alliance choosing this city as their headquarters, More and more races and underground cities chose to occupy a corner of this city. Facing a city that changes every day, even the old Vance citizens who have lived here for their entire lives can't figure out how many races there are and the unique buildings of their races. It is also impossible for them to sort out where the various alleys lead to. However, there is one place that all Vartans will never forget: the Platinum Chapel. Of course, this also has to do with the massive area it occupies and the 7 mage towers that reach the clouds. If one were to see it in any corner of Vance City, they would naturally not forget about it. That was the residence of the Platinum King, who left his name in history due to his extravagance. At that time, the underground autarch who ruled over this city and the surrounding hundreds of underground cities was high-spirited. He spent a huge sum of money to build this city within a city that occupied an area of 6 kilometers. In order to match its name, he used mithril and platinum to create a layer of shiny coating on the outer walls. Under the light, the shining fortress was like a castle in the clouds that was the home of angels. Inside, the streets were sparkling with jewels, satin beauties attending to them, and there were wine pools and meat forests every day. Alright, let's not talk about how that fellow extorted taxes and how he was overthrown by the seething anger of the people. Now that the hero of the world has turned into ashes, the Platinum Chapel that he left behind became the symbol of Vance City. Even though the luxurious metallic coating on the walls has long been scraped off and the walls are filled with ivy and other magical plants, the massive and luxurious palace district is still the most beautiful castle in Vance City, or even the entire underground world. The current underground world is no longer the Platinum King who was the sole ruler and the 4 autarchs who restricted one another. Vance City has always been in a state where no one dares to lay their hands on this fortress. But today, this place has been activated once again. It is the main venue of the Alliance Conference and the scale of it has even surpassed its heyday. Fireworks never stop in the sky. Griffins and manticores shuttle back and forth to welcome the guests. The majestic dragons are only the guards and guards of the gathering. The carriages are pulled by super beasts and the ingredients on the lunch table are all precious top-notch beasts. Even among the underground city lords participating in the conference, there are many experts. It is true that legend rank is nothing compared to dogs, saint rank is everywhere. Perhaps this place isn't as luxurious and wealthy as the human kingdoms, but the underground world where the strong are respected uses its own way to decorate this biennial conference. We arrived rather early, but there is already a sea of people here. The conference hall is split into 3 layers: inner, middle and outer. The outer layer is also the outer city district of the Platinum Chapel. Normal citizens are not allowed to enter this place and the guards of the city lords are also on guard here. There are also various kinds of large-scale activities and performances. The banquet will last for at least a week. The middle layer is where the minor city lords and famous heroes are. Their banquet will also last for 3 days. On the contrary, the duration of the conference in the inner layer is the shortest. Just 2 days is enough for all the big shots to quarrel. More than 10 Roland robots walk together at the same pace, creating light earthquakes and forcing the carriages in front to give way. On the way, there is a huge steelback semi-dragon that refuses to give way because of its big butt. Roland number 2 lifts it up and tosses it far away like a metal ball. Of course, I won't waste my money for nothing. Although they can only stop at the outer city hall, the purpose of displaying our might has been achieved perfectly. It is rare for an underground city lord to have a good temper. Along the way, there are many small conflicts and the security personnel also tacitly maintain their silence. On the way here, we saw quite a few duels and among them, there is no lack of legend rank experts. Actually, for the sake of demonstrating and security, this is also the reason why most of the city lords bring along their strongest guards. The underground autarchs are no exception. Those 7 to 8 red dragon guards at the entrance, isn't it Molly who is displaying her might? By the way, Little Red was supposed to come as well. However, because she is unwilling to leave her bed, those treasures below, helpless, I could only make an agreement that I will only send the signal when she is needed to appear. However, when Molly sees us, she heaves a sigh of relief. She also knows her daughter's personality. If she were to be hung up and beaten in public during the conference, it would really be embarrassing. Could it be that the group of red dragons at the entrance are there to block Little Red? Somehow, I seem to have seen the truth. Hey, old fellow, I'm here. How have you been these few days? Starting a war during the conference is absolutely forbidden. Those who go against it will immediately become the public enemy of the Alliance. However, this doesn't stop me from mocking them. Or rather, in this kind of situation where everyone can only move their mouths, it is more convenient for me to shoot my mouth off. Now, hearing me mention my experiences these few days, the pretty face of the Dragon Empress immediately contorts in anger. Of course, I know that they haven't been doing well these few days. They were attacked by thieves, underground city lords and even undead lords. Even if they have a strong background, how can they guard against everyone when everyone is their enemy? Their days of being scorned by everyone is really unbearable. Hee, 6 Shiluor senators have already appeared. Fortunately, the top 3 aren't here. If they were here, I probably wouldn't be able to see you all. Lamost's venom isn't that good, it should be excruciating. Just by looking at her appearance, the Dragon Empress is a red-haired beauty. However, at this moment, she is wearing black gloves that extend all the way to her shoulders and a fur coat covers her entire upper body. This is completely different from her usual dressing style. It is obvious that there are injuries on her hands and body. Just yesterday, I heard that she fought with Lamost. The most likely reason for that is the fatal plague and venom. I purposely touched the sore spot. As expected, Molly is so angry that the magic tattoo on her face contorts. However, after which, she clenches her teeth and forcefully tolerates it. Taking the cocktail from the hands of the waiter, she drinks it in one gulp and leaves immediately, leaving behind only a sentence. "You won't be happy for long." I hurriedly reply. "Right, your daughter said that she wants to beat you up. Remember to bring bodyguards. Those bunch at the entrance aren't even enough for her to beat up." I purposely raise my voice. The surrounding city lords are shocked that there is actually someone who dares to provoke the Dragon Empress like that. What makes them even more incredulous is that after the Dragon Empress clenches her teeth, she doesn't fly into a rage, as though she is silently acknowledging the reality. "Uncle Bones, if you talk about her like that, won't she obstruct us when we enter the Alliance later? If I don't mock her, she won't obstruct us. Since we are already destined to offend her, then we might as well offend her to the end. Furthermore, in the underground world, only the strong will be respected. We did offend the Dragon Empress, but at the same time, we also gained the goodwill of her enemies. Look, how happy that fat baldy is smiling. The fat baldy that I am talking about is currently chatting animatedly with Kaja. Seeing that I am here, he even takes the initiative to beckon me over. Exclamations fill my ears. Not mentioning the fact that I snatched the Dragon Empress voice, just the invitation from the underground autarch Edua alone is enough for us, a bunch of newbies, to be on the headlines. Ain Sterner. Edua, his body is round and doesn't have many strands of hair. From afar, he looks like a moving boiled egg, but none of them dare to express it. Facing the invitation, I took a step back and allowed and to carry out her duties. Recently, with the chaos, and had quite a few chances to make a move. Furthermore, with everyone taking the initiative to feed her moves, her improvement in strength is obvious. Especially after hearing the experience of her godfather's breakthrough, she seems to have grasped something. It wouldn't be strange for her to break through at any moment. However, compared to Anne, who is advancing triumphantly, Eliza, who is behind me, is strangely silent. Different from Anne, who is destined to become the city lord of Sulphur Mountain City, Eliza doesn't know what she wants anymore. If she is confused about her future path, how can she become a legend? These few days, she has been frustrated and silent. Don't think so much, the current you is already very good. Even if the consolation of an outsider isn't of much use in choosing a path, I still can't help but spout nonsense. My consolation makes Eliza jolt. Just as she is about to say something, dang dang dang, the bell rings. The sky is filled with colorful flags and the commotion outside is deafening. The Alliance conference has officially begun. Let's go in. Looking at the underground city lords who are starting to enter the inner city, I quicken my footsteps. I really can't bring myself to let and go to the conference in the inner city alone. I suggest that we form an allied army to completely wipe out the spy sent by the tailless monkey on the ground. The Lion King's furious roar echoes in the hall. That pair of furious eyes stares straight at me. It is obvious who the spy is. Even the city lord is a human hero on the ground. Which side do they belong to? What right does Sulphur Mountain City have to join the alliance? Do they intend to sneak in and become a spy? I suggest to chase them out. Whoever dares to reject my suggestion is the enemy of the Dragon's Den. The Dragon Empress threat is direct and effective. Offending the Dragon's Den is equivalent to offending all of the dragons under the Dragon's Den. That is not a small problem. As expected, the moment the conference starts, before we can even be introduced into the alliance, the Lion King and Dragon Empress start firing. But looking at this situation, I smile happily. Then let's make it the first proposal. Fellow city lords, please vote. What surprised the Lion King and the rest is that not only did Kaja and Edua not stop them, they even treated it as a proposal and requested for a vote. Following which, an even more shocking scene happens. This proposal that would have been effective with more than half of the people in the hall, only a few hundred people raise their hands in agreement. Alright, the first proposal doesn't pass. At this point, if one still doesn't know that something is wrong with the situation, one would really be a fool. The Dragon Empress and the Lion King look at one another, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. Due to the distance between the underground cities, many of the participants have deep grudges against each other. The Underground Alliance is originally an extremely loose organization, and even the underground autarchs don't dare to say that they have absolute authority over their supporters. Now, even the underground city lords who are on good terms with them gave up. What is going on? They expected that Sulphur Mountain City would try their best to rope in the other underground city lords. But these underground city lords are all arrogant and they are far apart from each other, making it extremely difficult to bribe them. Furthermore, they have become the target of scorn these few days, so they don't have the leisure to set up a trap for Sulphur Mountain City. From a certain perspective, the effect of throwing the scepter has achieved. Edua nods his head and continues to speak. Then, the second proposal will be proposed by Kaja and I. We will accept Sulphur Mountain City as a member of the Alliance and give them the same status as me, Kaja, Sho and Lord Dragon Empress. Yes, we might have another vice-alliance leader. The moment this proposal comes out, the entire hall is thrown into chaos. The position of an underground autarch isn't something that can be decided by the Alliance, but if this proposal is passed by the Alliance Conference where all of the powerful underground city lords are present, then what difference would there be between Sulphur Mountain City and the other underground autarchs? As for the Alliance Vice-Alliance leader, that is just the official name of the autarch. This proposal is more important. According to the rules, there must be at least 80% of the members who don't object to it. This is a secret ballot, so please feel free to vote. No one would think that this inconceivable proposal will pass, except for me. This proposal definitely won't pass that I told Kaja and Edua. Then, we will take a step back and propose the next proposal. That way, it will pass easily. Do us a favor, we need a shocking entrance. As the price, we will pay. Yes votes 110. Hearing this number, the Lion King and Dragon Empress smile. The gaze they look at me is filled with disdain, as though they are saying, country bumpkin, you still want to reach the sky in a single step, just watch. Objection votes 206. Impossible. It is natural for the number of yes votes to be low, but the number of objection votes is surprisingly low, making the Lion King jump up in an instant. The Lion King's gaze looks as though he wants to devour someone, making the vote counter tremble. Neutral. Neutral votes and abstention votes total 3,267, total number of participants 3583. Proposal passed. Arth. The announcer screams as he throws the result to the side, then scrambles down. The Lion King snatches the tabulation results and looks at it multiple times. The black and white words are placed in front of him. In the end, he can only put on a sour face and tear it apart to vent his anger. How did you do it? Kaja sticks close to me, her breath smelling like orchids by my ear. But I just smile mysteriously, not replying. Actually, to put it bluntly, it isn't worth a single coin. While others thought that I was fooling around, I actually did quite a few proper things. For example, as an old fox lawyer who knows how to exploit loopholes in the law and a legislator who knows how to patch up loopholes, I studied the rules and regulations of the Underground Alliance. Important decisions can be passed as long as more than 80% of them don't object. This is to prevent the Alliance, which has many internal differences, from being unable to come to an agreement. When the underground autarchs are unable to come to an agreement, this resolution will allow the majority of the underground city lords' decisions to be effective. But they neglected that sometimes, not objecting doesn't mean that they agree. It is indeed difficult to get the underground city lords to vote in favor, but it isn't impossible for them to not object. A portion of the law information is indeed lacking, but if you don't object during the voting for us to join the alliance, we will pass it to you after the meeting. Yes, it is enough as long as you don't object, we just don't want to lose so badly. This is a threat. This is a gift from Sulphur Mountain City. Your clothes were damaged in the calamity, right? These leaves, rattan clothes are all made by our Liberation Heaven Group's Druil. They are all natural materials, ensuring that they are natural and in accordance with the teachings. You don't have to pay, it is free. However, if you can help us during the voting for the alliance, it will be enough. You should know that we are new here, so we aren't familiar with this place. We will be depending on you, big brother. This is a favor. Don't you think that the current situation isn't right? Right now, the 4 underground Vice Alliance Masters are divided equally, and sooner or later, they will fight to the death. Don't you think that we need an existence like a lubricant? He needs to be strong, but he can't be too strong, and it would be best if he doesn't have any ambitions. This is reasoning. The Lion King and Dragon Empress are restricted by the scepter, giving me the opportunity to ask for votes from multiple angles. While the underground city lords are holding on to the mentality of 80% to pass, anyway, even if I forfeit, he won't be able to pass, our success is already decided. Congratulations, new Vice Alliance Master. Edua's congratulations are filled with malicious sarcasm. Ignoring the High Priest of the Dark Elves who is leaning on me, the killing intent of the 2 underground autarchs is already boiling. The happier the Dark Elves smile, the more vicious their attacks. No one would be willing to see their authority weakened by others. At this moment, no matter how well I said before, I have already offended all of them. The gazes of most of the city lords aren't that friendly anymore. After all, I have lied to them all, even though what I said is the truth. But, this is what I want. I smile in satisfaction. However, being stared at by over 1,000 legend experts, the 2 beside me feel uncomfortable. Most of the malicious gazes are directed towards Anne, who is sitting in the middle. After all, she is the future city lord of Sulphur Mountain City. I don't have time to wait for and to slowly mature. The greater the pressure, the faster she grows. From now on, everyone in this city is our enemy. Endure it. This is the test I am giving you. Roland, come and help, we are in big trouble. The camp is being attacked by an undead lord. Suddenly, Little Red's voice sounds from the back of my head. She actually activated an emergency communication, and the undead lord that made her call for help is at least at the level of Shiluor Senator. You won't be happy for long. Molly's sarcasm flashes across my mind. Then, I come to a realization. Using the auction rights or the chance to observe to get the undead senators to come to an agreement and get them to work for me. During the Alliance Conference, internal fighting is prohibited but the undead lords aren't restricted. As expected, the underground autarchs are not to be underestimated. I stand up, intending to leave to provide support, but the Dragon Queen blocks the door. Where do you intend to go? The conference isn't over yet. Lord Vice Guild Leader, leaving the conference without permission is against the entire alliance. Ayo, lad, what are you doing? On the side, a dwarf lad is using his short legs to kick the Dragon Queen with all his might. What is weird is that his short legs aren't fast enough for the Dragon Queen to be unable to dodge them. Every time, she is kicked up to her knees. Baddie, you actually dare to bully our pa. Our dang will beat you up. Somehow, I feel that this voice is very familiar but I can't bring myself to laugh at the moment. At the same time, an ominous feeling surges in my heart, as though I am about to meet with misfortune. Based on my many years of misfortune, I can guarantee that this feeling means that trouble is coming. The dwarf lad raises his head. His face is full of pimples and his snot flows all the way to his chin. His eyes stare fixedly at me before smiling foolishly at me. Ah pa. Ah dang. For a moment, if it wasn't for this familiar name, I wouldn't be able to associate the gigantic abomination-stitched monster that I personally created with the little dwarf in front of me. At this moment, a cold voice rings in my ears. You even have an illegitimate child and he is a dwarf. Master, your taste really leaves me speechless. Can I ask what you did to the mother of this child? Could it be that you abandoned her after using her? Master, you are too dirty. Chapter 49. The resplendent hall is in a mess. Even though the host is trying his best to maintain order, he is unable to stop the discussions of the underground city lords on the seats. Even though some of them were scammed, to be able to scam everyone and to be able to get this suggestion to be voted on in the Alliance Conference, this shows the strength of Sulphur Mountain City. The decision made in the Alliance Conference isn't a joke and it can't be changed. Otherwise, the trust of the entire Alliance will be shaken. The fifth autarch, Sulphur Mountain City, this is the term that the underground city lords are talking about the most, and it is the reality in most of their hearts. The sudden ascension of a new underground autarch is equivalent to a reshuffling of the power distribution in the Alliance Conference. If it isn't handled properly, it might cause hundreds of wars and redraw the territories of the major powers. This sudden omen represents endless trouble and a rare opportunity. The underground city lords who are able to enter the inner hall aren't easy to deal with. These days, who doesn't have some ambition? If Sulphur Mountain City can ascend, then why can't I? Furthermore, the new autarch is lacking in supporters. Perhaps, we can rely on him to obtain more resources and backing. Countless desires and ideas make the underground city lords start to think. Naturally, the atmosphere in the hall becomes strangely heated. The little conflict between the Dragon Queen and me, other than a few people sitting close to us, not many people noticed it. However, it is a pity that not many people noticed it. At this moment, the Dragon Queen Molly, who shocked the entire underground world, is baring her fangs at a little dwarf like an enraged old cat. Furthermore, she can only be fierce with her mouth. Even an underground autarch wouldn't dare to make a move in the Alliance Conference. What's more, it is a pity that she, who is used to being unreasonable, is trying to be reasonable. However, that silly-looking dwarf is trying to be unreasonable. Stare. What are you staring at? Stare at me and I will eat you. The shameless dwarf ignores the Dragon Queen's restraint. His arrogance makes the eyes of the surrounding audience pop out. However, I know that this threat is real. If our Dang says that he will eat him, then he really intends to eat him. Furthermore, he is likely to be able to eat him. But now, the camp is still under attack and it isn't the time to continue wasting time with the Dragon Queen who is obviously stalling for time. Ah dang, before I give the order, you are not allowed to eat any living being. Immediately, Ah Dang's face turned bitter, but he still nodded his head. However, it is fortunate that Ah Dang's elder brother gave him the name Adam, so that the Dragon Empress wouldn't be able to recognize Ah Dang's nickname from the start. Ah Dang is such a good name, why can't he be a proper name? I am still unable to understand. Abby, demonic voidhound Bustion, is the same as well. To think that he is the leader of the 4 heavenly kings, the eldest of the 7 deadly sins, wrath. Yet, he still refuses to give me a name. Look at how obedient Abby, Chromagus, and Ah Dang are. They are already used to being called by their pet names. Now, they probably won't even remember their real names. In the void, a familiar voice was heard from the emergency channel that they had agreed upon beforehand. Are they here yet? I can't hold on for much longer against 3 undead monarchs. If you don't send reinforcements, I'm going to run away with my men. There isn't the slightest hint of the pride of the dragons in the legends. Since they can't win, they are prepared to run away without hesitation. Actually, what Little Red is doing is the standard behavior of dragons. The dragons in the legends who fight to the death without retreating is something that the dragons are unable to understand. Why aren't you afraid when you clearly can't win? Why did you come down to fight with those metal cans? Are you stupid? However, looking at how Little Red is getting more and more anxious, this isn't the time to waste time. Let's go. I pulled Ardang, who was baring his fangs at the Dragon Empress, intentionally ignoring the increasingly cold gaze behind me and the mysterious drool that Ardang was drooling at the Dragon Empress. While the Dragon Empress was still clutching her injured leg, she didn't stop us. Actually, she unexpectedly found out that she instinctively fears that little dwarf. Her eyes are filled with confusion. Think about it slowly. I don't believe that you can guess that this little dwarf is the infamous carnivore Adam. However, looking at the venomous gaze that the Dragon Empress is giving us, the trouble has only just begun. Eliza, stay behind to help Anne. I don't feel at ease leaving her alone. No, I want to go. Furthermore, didn't you say that you want to train her to be independent? This is such a good opportunity. I turn my head back in shock, only to see Eliza's rare determination. I feel that there is something waiting for me ahead. I have to go. Perhaps, it might be of help to me in breaking through to legend. People who are stuck at a bottleneck often have an inexplicable intuition about the opportunity to break through. Since she has already said so, I have no reason to reject her. Diana, Victoria, enter the inner city to help Anne. Victoria, it is time for you to perform. Don't disappoint me. Diana, if someone doesn't allow you to enter, just go ahead and beat them up. Number 3 and number 4 will stay here to support the situation. As for the rest of the Roland robots, follow me back. Our camp is going to have some fun. After making a simple arrangement, I leave Shueti to take charge of it. Then, I jump onto the head of Roland number 2 and hitch a ride. Rumble, rumble, a series of tremors cause the buildings on both sides of the road to tremble. Sitting on the head of number 2, I close my eyes and go into deep thought. Behind me, Eliza consoles me. Don't worry, with Lord Mesus, Little Red, around, along with the defensive power of the camp, there won't be any problems. I nod my head but didn't say anything. I won't tell her that I wasn't worried at all. I was just hesitating whether to shout Autobots, transform and set off, or Decepticons, transform and set off would sound more impressive. However, looking at the nervous expressions of the people around me, I felt that it would be better not to court death and speak the truth. Haha, this is fun. Dad, this isn't a living thing, can it be eaten? The drooling Ardang bounces around like a ball being played by the robot. Even so, there isn't any possibility of him falling down. At this moment, he is pointing at Roland number 2 beneath his feet. Looks like the huge size of the robot has triggered his appetite. No, Ardang. Also, you aren't allowed to call me Dad here. Just call me Wumianzi or Lord. Okay, Dad. Wumianzi. Yes, Dad. The heck, can't you stop being so stubborn? Dad, Ardang is the one who isn't stubborn. Dad is Dad. Alright, considering that this joke has been used so many times that it isn't funny anymore, I should just skip the tug-of-war with little Ardang. In the end, under the smile of Eliza who is watching the commotion, I admit defeat. Let him call me whatever he wants, I don't care anymore. However, it seems that from the start, Eliza knew that this little dwarf isn't my biological son. Her behavior in the hall is just her habitual venomous tongue acting up. Of all the people she could learn from, she chose to learn from Marguerite, that gutless one. The saints are used to observing the changes of the world from the perspective of a bystander. But sometimes, observing from the sidelines means being passive. Thinking too much and considering too much, they lack the courage to change. Not mentioning anything else, in terms of feelings, if she had the slightest bit of courage, she would have pushed Adam down long ago and forced that fool to take responsibility. Is there a need to drag it out till now? Sometimes, being too gentle and caring about other people's feelings isn't necessarily a good thing. Isn't it good to be a little selfish? In this world, there isn't a perfect ending where everyone is happy. After hesitating for a moment, I increase the volume of my muttering to myself. Furthermore, Marguerite is Marguerite and Eliza is Eliza. If she can't even see this clearly, how can she have the right to form a soul imprint that belongs solely to her and prove to the world that she is a transcendent existence, surpassing the masses and opening the path of a legend. Despite my soft muttering, Eliza, who has sharp ears, heard it clearly. Her body trembles slightly and the gaze she looks at me with becomes even more complicated. Speaking up to this point, not only is it enough, it is already considered too much. I turn my head to ask Ardang. Ardang, you can't have come alone, right? Who brought you here? Big Sister Grier. Who? I stare blankly for a moment. There isn't one called Grier among the undead lords. Could it be that a super newbie has appeared recently? To be able to guide Ardang and not be treated as backup food, that isn't something a normal undead lord can do. It's that big sister whose singing is the worst. Hearing that I don't understand, Ardang starts to panic. It's Grey. Sin. You can just say that she is the throat of death. Could it be that because there are too many victims and her reputation is too bad, she decided to change her name to deceive others to continue attending her death concert? Hearing that her singing is terrible, I instantly think of the familiar Bone Dragon Queen. Grey. Sin's singing has reached the level of mental pollution, yet she doesn't have any self-awareness. Her actions of continuously creating victims has already made her more famous than herself. Other than our Pa, if anyone else calls her that, Big Sister Grier will beat them up. Ardang doesn't want to get beaten up. Hihi, it can't be that you can't defeat her. My Ardang won't lose to any senator. No, Ardang doesn't beat Big Brother and Big Sister. Ardang is very obedient. Whoever dares to bully Big Brother, Big Sister and our Pa, Ardang will beat them up. Our Pa, isn't Ardang very obedient? So obedient. This is what a good child should be. I happily hug this little cutie and along the way, I turn around and blink at Eliza, indicating to her that this is how an obedient child should be. Sigh, I really regret it. She was such a cute little girl in the past. Just what went wrong? How did she become such a sharp-tongued housekeeper today? Alright, for the sake of my precious collection, I better keep my words to myself and not provoke her casually. Our Pa, Big Sister Grier flies really fast. I got her to help fight first. The little dwarf sniffled and jumped up and down happily, like a child looking forward to being praised. Does she know the location? I got her to fly towards the southwest direction of the city and beat up any annoying person she sees. Even though it doesn't make sense, but for experts who aren't that intelligent, even their cultivation relies on their instincts. Intuition is usually stronger than careful thinking. Obviously, Ardang and Adam belong to the physical intuition faction. Bone Dragon Queen Grey. Sin is here. She is actually helping me. Little Red's message made me heave a sigh of relief. Grey. Sin's singing might be unreliable, but her fighting prowess is reliable. However, it is only a matter of time before a problem arises. I can't rely on others to get there. Furthermore, there is still at least 20 minutes before I reach there. Furthermore, if I were to arrive and my identity is exposed by those familiar fellows, back then, I got the intelligence from that dark elf spy that even if Lord Yongye is sealed, the Dragon Empress wouldn't dare to open it. The underground world also views him as a super-threatening existence that needs to be sealed forever. If Lord Yongye really appears, perhaps, the war between the surface and the underground world can really be stopped. We can just form an allied army to suppress Lord Yongye. Ardang, activate your flight mode and let me in. Ardang nods his head. With a stomp of his feet, he enters the black fog. A few seconds later, the black fog, which is glowing with a mysterious light, dissipates. That lively little gnome is nowhere to be seen. In his place, there is only a beautiful silver-armored wyvern. It is at least 20 meters tall. It doesn't have legs and its entire body is smooth. However, it has 6 gigantic metal wings. Ardang's entire body is covered in metal armor that is as thick as a city wall. However, looking at it carefully, that sturdy armor is grown within the flesh. The triangular dragon head is filled with the smell of metal. Countless parts are embedded within its body and the gears on its 4 limbs are spinning at high speed. That is the perfect combination of machinery and flesh. The entire wyvern is like a perfect work of art, completely unrelated to the abomination-stitched abomination. Ardang, transform and set off. The moment Eliza and I walked into the control room of the wyvern's body, a dragon roar with a child's voice resounds. The 6 wings spread open and crimson flames shoot out from within. Our Dang shoots out flames like a rocket, using the recoil force to shoot himself out. Although the control room is very stable, looking at the scenery that is rapidly retreating, a normal giant dragon doesn't even have the right to eat dust. An abomination increasing giant that can transform? Is it weird? In reality, it isn't. This is the foundation and shackles of his existence. Our Dang represents the original sin gluttony. Gluttony, to put it bluntly, is an excessive appetite. Appetite is the most basic requirement of life. Life needs to eat and digest nutrients. Its basic goal is to survive and become stronger so that it can emerge victorious in the cruel world of nature and obtain a chance to evolve. Gluttony equals evolution plus survival. When this equation is formed in my mind, the weakest abomination, stitched abomination in history, is born. He is only 1.2 meters tall, unable to even lift a small rock. The only ability it has is to eat. Abomination stitched abomination is a fusion of corpses, making it the most suitable to fuse the strengths of other living beings to evolve. On the other hand, our Dang is able to fuse the strengths of its food into its own body. Very quickly, after going through a few battles, a mountain-sized corpse monster becomes the nightmare of all living beings. But soon, after eating once, he self-destructs. I concluded the lesson of my failure. That is because no living being, no inanimate object, is able to evolve endlessly. Evolving beyond the limits of one's physical body, overly powerful strength, overly complicated physical structure, will only lead to deformity and destruction. Now that the new equation of excessive evolution equals self-destruction was established, the next step was to have the masked knight's evolution be limited by a goal and direction. Fine, I admit that I copied a certain masked knight who had many forms during this process. The experiment wasn't smooth sailing. Dozens of experiments self-destructed and the only successful product is our Dang. After which, I set a few goals for our Dang. Normal combat form, flying form, diving combat form, assault form, and so on. Then, I let it evolve through devouring. For example, no matter how much it absorbs genes that are beneficial for high-speed flight, it is only limited to the flying form. For example, I let the wings of a wyvern and the wings of a phoenix directly devour and fuse together. The genes of the winner will be used to construct its own wings, while the genes of the loser will be used as backup and food. After countless times of devouring and fusing, it will naturally form the most perfect flying form. Stealing the sharp claws from a behemoth, stealing the wings from a giant dragon, and stealing the talent to use holy light from an angel, a Dang is the true perfect life form and ultimate existence. Alright, this design is indeed a success, but I unquestionably went overboard. In theory, the ever-evolving Dang can eventually grow to the level of god-slaying. Of course, in order to achieve this goal, he first has to devour a few semigods without being stuffed to death. However, I feel that before that, Mother Earth would first descend to the mortal world and slap me to death for creating such an unnatural monster that is capable of destroying the world. Fortunately, perhaps due to his overly powerful strength and potential, the heavens are jealous of him. No matter how hard I try, I am unable to raise our Dang's intelligence. Magic and martial arts cannot be executed purely on instinct. His low intelligence has always restricted him from bringing out the advantages of his physical body. This is also the reason why, even though he is the strongest among the senators in terms of absolute strength, his ranking is still the last. However, if I were to separate the physical body from the brain and install a pilot in the physical body as a second brain, the flaw of low intelligence would naturally disappear. Alright, I admit that I copied our Dang's design from the gigantic robot that always bullies small monsters. However, the origins of heroes don't matter. Regardless of whether it is a black cat or a white cat, as long as it is able to catch mice, it is a good cat, isn't it? Ah Dang, how many forms do you have now? How many of them are of a rank and above? A total of 12 forms. The 9 battle forms are all of S rank and above. The beast form and city siege form are both SS rank. In this state, our Dang hands over the control of his physical body to me. It is as though he has shut down the processor of a huge project. Hearing this, I can't help but click my tongue. Back then, Ardang only had a total of 7 forms. Out of the 4 battle forms, only 2 of them have reached S rank. Now that he has reached the SS rank that I set, that means, under the premise that the operator is strong enough, he would be able to face a semigod head-on. Don't transform into the SS rank form in front of others. Today's target should be dealt with using the S rank form. Greed and gluttony are the type that start off extremely weak, but their growth is limitless. However, Ardang's speed of evolution still surprises me. Initially, I thought that he would need at least 1,000 years to reach such a level. Ardang, don't eat living beings in the future. Stop evolving for the time being. Focus on raising your fighting skills and controlling your magic. Excessive evolution isn't a good thing for the world or himself. He should listen to my orders. Yes, our dad, we have arrived. Looking down, we have indeed arrived. Below us, it has already turned into a chaotic battlefield of gigantic beasts. The 6th Senator Demonic Bone Beast Crimspur, the 10th Senator Decaying Ant King Lamost and the 11th Senator the Great Schemer Penny Hall. Other than the 11 senators who are only the size of a normal human as a Lich, the other opponents are gigantic beasts that are 30 to 40 meters tall. On the side of the defending army, the ancient Red Dragon and Bone Dragon Queen aren't small in size either. At this moment, the Red Dragon is fighting with the Demonic Bone Beast and the Blue Crystal Bone Dragon that is causing a ruckus on the battlefield is fighting against the remaining 2 senators alone. When they roll around, a bunch of goblin mines would explode from the ground, but they aren't even able to pierce through their skin. The goblin cannons don't stop firing, but they are still ignored. Ah dang, it's time to eat meat. Following a roar, the silver-armored flying dragon disappears into the black fog and a gigantic gorilla-shaped beast appears on the spot. Its entire body is muscular and its arms are so strong that they are deformed. Yet, the glow of metal is glowing. He is the tallest and strongest of the gigantic beasts present. Kusai, here to pay a visit. That gorilla stretches out his arms and makes a weird pose. Seeing that the surrounding people are looking at him with a weird gaze, a synthesized voice comes from within Ardang's body. As expected, I shouldn't have used such an old joke that reveals my age. Since there is an awkward silence, then, that gorilla gigantic beast crosses his arms, forming a 90-degree angle. Making a weird pose, he compares himself to Crimspur. Hihi, look at my motion light wave. No, ultra light ray. Alright, the situation is still awkward, boom. But a ray of light really shoots out from his arms, causing Crimspur to tumble forward. Ha, do you think that I am faking it? Then, facing the powerful enemies surrounding him, the gorilla demonic beast suddenly pushes his hands against the ground and stands upside down. So this button is the cannon. Right, where is the punch? Is it this? Don't bother me, Eliza. I am very good at fighting games. Is this a kick? Alright, now that I have mastered the basics, watch my Chinese martial arts sweep through the other world. Chapter 50. To a necromancer, summoning undead and recruiting their own skeleton warriors is undoubtedly the first course of study. The second course is naturally the fine manipulation of undead creatures. For a low-tier undead with low intelligence, if he is allowed to act instinctively, the efficiency and effect would be unreliable. His left foot tripping over his right foot and falling to the ground, it wouldn't be cute at all when placed on a skeleton warrior that is only left with bones. If it were to save a life and it disintegrates naturally, it would make one want to cry but have no tears. Thus, I put my mind into my own undead creation. Spirit assimilation, spirit synchronization, allowing the will of a necromancer to direct the movements of the undead creation is a compulsory course for a necromancer. As for me, Emperor Yungyue, I am at least a qualified necromancer. After realizing that the operating system that was designed on the spur of the moment is slow to react, messy commands and is pointing to the left and right, I naturally gave up on it and directly used the most basic undead control technique, spirit synchronization. Ha! Eat my 18 dragon subduing palms. Although there is no dragon. Stepping firmly on the horse stance, with a sudden stomp, my body charges forward. My claws press against the head of Crimspur's dragon head, twisting and thick upper limbs turn into heavy cannons. Vigorous steel strength is on the verge of exploding. Break. With a low roar, that dragon head shatters into pieces with a cracking sound and the pieces scatter everywhere. Impossible. The remaining two Grim and Span cry out in fear. He had crossed hands with Ardang before and he wasn't this strong, getting one of his heads blown off the moment they met. As a former genius in swordsmanship, I have seen countless martial arts. The secret manuals of magic martial arts from another world are completely different from the mainstream martial arts of the Asia continent. What the Asia continent pursues is to improve oneself from the root, from a human to a non-human. They don't pay much attention to the minor details. On the other hand, the martial arts of this world pursues to dig out the full potential of the body, treating one part of strength as three parts of flowers. It is similar to the strength exertion techniques of the warrior monks, but much more superior. The only regret is that as a magic technique, it itself lacks the support of magic power. Furthermore, it clearly requires the support of special and unique magic power, innate chi and inner chi. Thus, it has always been used as a decoration. However, with Ardang's perfect body, if he lacks magic power, he can just use his physical strength to make up for it. Currently, this is the first time that I, who is in sync with Ardang, am using this perfect strength exertion technique. Seeing how powerful it is in actual combat, I am shocked. But now was not the time to be shocked. Next, Ardang's four limbs touch the ground as he sprints like a violent ape. Every time he leaps, it brings about an unbearable shock to the earth. His entire person is like an unstoppable avalanche, charging faster and faster. Dodge. Grim Span had suffered a loss and knew how powerful it was. But compared to him, Ramstein, who was much larger and slower, was unable to dodge in time. Ardang increases his speed and reaches Ramstein's side. However, he suddenly stands up like a human and his entire body turns into a cannon, charging forward like a raging bull. Iron Mountain lean. Although there are no mountains. Boom. The humongous six-legged giant ant doesn't even make a sound as it is sent flying. Its 6 limbs dance wildly in the air, sweeping everything in its path. The temptation of gluttony allowed Ardang's physical body to evolve to perfection. On the other hand, a martial technique from another world aims to bring out the full potential of one's physical body. The combination of the two causes Ardang's fighting prowess to soar. When the orangutan behemoth's searchlight-like eyes locked onto the last undead senator, the Lich Penny did not say a word and immediately escaped through a dimensional door. Furthermore, this was an alliance of benefits. Furthermore, the Eternal Night Scepter isn't in their hands yet. Thus, the 3 senators held back when they made their move. When Greer was clearly siding with them, in order to give face to their colleagues, they decided to fight with a peaceful fist. At this moment, the rampaging Ardang is unstoppable. It is obvious that he has gone berserk. If he were to be knocked to death by this rash fool who doesn't care about their past relationship, wouldn't they be the laughingstock of their future generations? Undead lords and powerful races like dragons rely on their talents to survive. In terms of realms, Little Red is only a myth rank below semigod. However, coupled with the racial talents of the dragons, if they were to really fight, even the semigod Adam might not be able to do well. Initially, Little Red alone is enough to suppress the 2 senators. Most of the senators are only saint rank, but coupled with their racial talents and undead army, they are able to match up to a myth rank. Now that the other party has the support of 2 senators, who are ranked higher than them, it is apparent that they are unable to fight. A wise man knows when to retreat. Undead lords have lived for so long, it isn't enough to rely on their fists alone. After which, seeing Ardang rampaging for some reason and Pony slipping away, Grim Span, who has lived for a long time, unhesitatingly brings Ramstein away. At this moment, there are still a few days left to the auction and the main show hasn't started yet. I still have to keep them as the main characters, so I don't have the intention to pursue them to the end. Big. Greer is agitated and wants to say something, but she is stopped by my phantom sound. Let's talk later. When Ardang dispels his transformation and turns back into a bouncing little gnome, I skillfully take out a small booklet from my back and pass it to him. Little brother, I see that your bones are amazing. You are a 1 in a million genius in martial art. The mission of maintaining the world's peace will depend on you. I have a secret manual of Buddha's palm here. Seeing that we are fated to meet, I will give you a discount. I will sell it to you for $10. Catcher. The ravenous Dang swallows the secret manual in one gulp, almost biting my hand in the process. Then, he looks at me expectantly, hoping that his Pa will continue feeding him. You got eaten, wait, spit it out. I am just joking, I haven't left behind a copy yet and I haven't mastered it yet. This thing is a limited edition, even if I can't master it, I can still use it as a family heirloom to fool others. Dang looks at the old fellow who is taking something out of the little gnome's mouth with a wronged expression. If it was anyone else who dares to mess around like this, he would have swallowed them whole. But at this moment, it is his Pa, so he can only do as he wishes. He looks at big sister Grier, hoping that she can be saved. But at this moment, Grier, who has turned back into a human, is only concerned about saving her little brother. Her pair of beautiful eyes are already locked onto her emperor. That layer of disguise is meaningless in front of her. Everything around her is ignored, her passionate gaze is enough to burn everything. Big Lord, long time no see. Remembering that the emperor is obviously in disguise and seems to be hiding his identity, Grier immediately changes her words. Just like a young girl who is in love for the first time, the bashful Grier tugs on the corner of the emperor's clothes. While tapping her toes lightly, she lowers her head and plays with her fingers. Whatever questioning why the emperor abandoned everything and faked his death, whatever mission given by Lionheart has long been thrown to the side. At this moment, the agitated cold-faced queen can't even speak clearly. A tinge of redness appears on her pale face. Her black and white eyes no longer have the unfathomable depth of the past. She only uses the corner of her eyes to stare at the heartless person in front of her, afraid that he will suddenly disappear again. Of course, I can see that passionate gaze, but I am unable to respond to it. I can only groan in my heart. Although I am indeed dead, I am not a necrophile and I have no feelings towards dead people, no, dead dragons, Lord. Just as I am racking my brains to think of a lie, suddenly, an instinctive sense of danger makes me lower my head. At the same time, while I am immersed in the joy of meeting the Emperor, a cold wind on her back suddenly jolts her awake. Spreading her bone wings, she leaps away. The original spot was already filled with the marks left by the ice blade lines. Eliza, it doesn't have to be. My surprise hung in the air. Eliza's current appearance was obviously abnormal. His eyes were bloodshot and had a strange yellowish hue. His pupils had turned into the vertical shape of a beast. His original cold and indifferent face was gone, and scales appeared on his face. He panted heavily while staring at Gloria. Her right arm had completely transformed into a demonic hand with orange-red scales. The small horn behind her ear was thickening at a visible speed, and the tail behind her was twisting and deforming. Deep devilization. How could this be? I hurriedly took out the devil's contract and found that there wasn't any problem with it. However, at this moment, without a doubt, Eliza had already broken through the seal of the contract and entered deep demonification. Go to hell. Die. Die. The frenzied Eliza leaped into mid-air and the orange-red wings on her back spread open. Then, with a sudden twist, she dived downwards and launched a suicidal attack towards Gloria. To an ordinary person, the wind pressure from the demonified iron fist was more than enough to be fatal. Looking at this desperate stranger, Gloria frowned. She felt frustrated that her reunion with the Emperor was disrupted. The opponent wasn't weak, but compared to her, she was still far from it. The domineering fourth senator had never suffered a loss before. With a finger, she intended to kill the frenzied half-demon in front of her. Finger of death, Grey. Sin. What are you doing? The furious roar of the Emperor caused the fearless Gloria to tremble. The spell that she had cast halfway dispelled and she obediently hugged her head while squatting down. Her beautiful silver hair drooped onto the ground, not bothering about dirtying it. That tortoise style of defense could be said to be perfect, completely ignoring the sharp claws and threads that were about to reach her. Incantation of law, mandatory execution. I raised the devil's contract and shouted. With the support of my soul imprint's heart of justice, A 7-circle incantation of law was instantly cast. In mid-air, the silver gavel descended and 2 silver halos revolved around Eliza and me. The sigil of the scales that represented fairness appeared in the sky, indicating that the contract between Eliza and me was being tested. Following which, due to Eliza going against the contract, the scales lost its balance. A large amount of the power of order coiled around Eliza's body, binding her tightly. Following the requirements of the contract, it started to reverse demonify her. However, it was a pity that the abyss of chaos and the origin of order were equal powers. In the end, the sudden increase in the power of order was futile. After the effects of the incantation of law dissipated, it could only bind Eliza tightly. The portion that had been demonified was like water that was spilled, destined to be irreversible. Even though she was unable to move, Eliza was still glaring at Greer. Her beastly eyes were filled with killing intent. That was a deep hatred that she couldn't wait to grind her bones into dust. Pa! Little Red struck the back of Eliza's head, knocking her unconscious. Then, she carefully carried her up. Roland, it is all my fault. I forgot to tell you not to bring Eliza over. Back then, it was Greer who killed Eliza. Looks like after seeing the enemy who killed her in her previous life, the instinctive hatred in her soul was stirred up, breaking through the seal of the contract and causing her to lose her rationality. I took over my maid, but shook my head and sighed. No, you didn't do anything wrong. It is all my fault, all my fault. The sleeping Eliza felt as though she had fallen into a comfortable sea. Endless powerful existences accompanied her by her side. As long as she was willing to take them, the secrets of the abyss, limitless power, the title of a demon would be within her grasp. No. Instinctively feeling that she had more important things to do, Eliza rejected the temptation of the abyss. She then had one dream after another. In her dream, she was a small thief whose goal was to become the richest man in the world. She went on adventures together with her Saint Knight brother, Mage sister, and Idiot Adam. That small adventuring group traveled all over the world, underground, polar regions, and deserts, leaving their traces everywhere. Gradually, the noobs matured, and they became known as legends in the mouths of newbies. Life was adventure, and adventure was also life. There were joys, sorrows, and sorrows. There were good things that made people happy, and there were also sorrowful things that made people sad. During the journey, his goal had unknowingly deviated. Searching for treasures had become a hobby, and being the richest man in the world had become a habitual slogan. The most important person to her was that person who always had a cheerful smile on his face, but his heart was filled with pain and worry. That foolish older brother who had always been silently sacrificing and protecting her and her other companions. Eliza, Eliza, do you hear me? A familiar voice rang beside her ear. Eliza knew that her dream was about to end. In her confusion, the skeletal arm overlapped with the pair of warm big hands. Is that Brother Rollo? In the gap between the illusion and reality, Brother Rollo's delicate face was stunned for a moment before revealing an expression of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. That was the look of him every time when he helped her and the idiot to clean up their messes. That year, when she was still immature, she loved to see Brother Rollo's helpless and doting look the most. Because of this, she purposely created trouble everywhere, causing Brother Rollo to drag her to apologize to one family after another. But in the next second, the illusion dissipated. Brother Rollo's gentle smile turned into the hateful skull. Perhaps, the only thing that didn't change was the doting and joy that came from the bottom of his heart under his helpless expression. Oh, so it's that bastard master. It's good that you are fine, it's good that you are fine. You have been unconscious for 3 days, it is normal for your body to be a little weak now. Sleep more. After her master left, Eliza struggled to get up. Looking around, it was her own room. On the coffee table beside the bed, there was water and porridge prepared for the patient and a few plum candies. Porridge is one of the few food that her clumsy master, just like Brother Rollo, knows how to make. Looking at the yellowish-white color, it seems that she failed a few times to make the best product. As for the plum candies, how many years has it been since I grew up? Bastard master, you still think that I am that little girl who would obediently eat sweets when I am suffering from a fever and eat porridge? Even though she was complaining, Eliza gently peeled off the sugar coating and threw it into her mouth. She closed her eyes to savor the taste. It was the same sweet and sour taste that she was familiar with in her memory. The gallery of her memories unfolded in her mind. Bits and pieces of the past flashed past her eyes. Her previous life and current life turned into real memories. In reality, the weak young lady was struggling to get up by supporting herself against the side of the bed. How shameful, I don't even dare to face my true self. No wonder Master said that I am not fit to enter the realm of legend. Wasn't my goal in life already set long ago? I am not the overly rational Marguerite, nor am I the cowardly Lisa. I am Eliza, the one and only Eliza. Whatever I want, I won't wait for those two foolish women to wait till the end of time. I will snatch it myself. I will snatch it myself. Following Eliza's vow, endless pillars of fire and a sea of ice flooded the room. But surprisingly, there wasn't a hint of heat or cold. The confirmation of my soul is to follow my instincts, to chase after the object of my dreams. In the depths of Eliza's soul, a bleeding dragon head and a black beast were tearing at each other. The two beasts were frantically fighting for their lives, fighting until the very last moment, finally forming an imprint of the two beasts biting each other. This soul imprint represented the uncontrollable aggressiveness of the owner. At this moment, Eliza entered the realm of legend. Plunderer, that is your name. Chapter 51. Lord Wumian's he. Please lend me money. As long as you are willing to lend me money, I am willing to do anything. The young lady's face was flushed red and her eyes were filled with tears and desire. I was a little dumbfounded. The moment I stepped out, Victoria hugged onto my robe, unwilling to let go no matter what. She even said that she wanted to borrow money to buy some belt. Lord, we just found out that there is a rare treasure in the auction, Edwina's transformation belt. If it is possible, I beg you. I can use my salary as collateral. I am still young, I can work for another 200 years. Diana, who had been strangely avoiding me recently, mustered her courage and worked hard to get financial support from me for the sake of her brother's happiness. She was even willing to sign a contract to sell herself for a few hundred years. After Eliza removed the dozens of curses from Victoria's body, including the shaman's witchcraft, Victoria started living with her sister. However, perhaps because she heard too many rumors about me, she was afraid of me. Instead, she always stayed far away from me. Even if she met me in the corridor, she would tiptoe away, as though I would eat her alive. Lord, as long as you are willing to lend me money to bid for that belt, I will go all out and serve you with my fatherly skills. I know that you like boys. Last time, you also rejected my service because of this. However, this time, if I have the chance to turn back into a male, you will be happy. Right. I will make you very happy. Victoria. Her older sister Diana looked at her younger sister in shock. She didn't expect that under Victoria's cheerful smile, there was so much pain. For a chance to turn back into a male, she was willing to sacrifice so much. Sister, say no more. There is only one Edwina's belt in this world. If I miss this opportunity, I can only be a woman for the rest of my life. As long as I can turn back, even if I have to use my body to serve the demon, it is nothing. The elf young lady's eyes were filled with the resolution of sacrifice. For the sake of her goal, she was willing to sacrifice her body to serve the demon. It reminded me of the revolutionaries who died bravely. Then, as a demon, emphasis, can you tell me what exactly happened? The two elves shivered in fright. Under my pressure, they explained everything in a few words. Edwin's belt, also known as Edwina's belt, was an epic wonder with a curse. Its only use was to completely change the user's gender, and once it was worn, it could never be taken off. Due to its strange characteristics, any wearer who accidentally wore it would not reveal it. Otherwise, being ridiculed by others was still a small matter, because if this thing was killed and robbed, it would be too tragic. This time, for the sake of the prestige of the underground city lord, the old lion is trying his best to search for rare treasures that can be used as a stepping stone for the eternal night scepter. One of the underground dungeon lords under Lion King killed his favorite and handed over Edwina's belt. There was no such thing as an airtight wall in this world. The news of the belt being auctioned had long been leaked out. This rare treasure, which was a nightmare for ordinary people, was the only life-saving straw for Victoria. Lord, I beg of you, I've had enough of the empty feeling when I wake up. Also, the way those men look at me, it's as if they want to eat me up. It's too unbearable. Just thinking about it, I get goosebumps all over my body. Also, those days that happen once a month, to men, it's a nightmare. Looking at this tear-stained young lady, telling me about the nightmare of men with her tears, I somehow felt that it was a little funny. At this moment, for the sake of Wu Mianxi's image, I could only try my best to hold in my laughter so that I wouldn't laugh out loud. But suddenly, I understood the hidden meaning behind the words just now. Wait. You mean that the reason why I rejected you the last time was because your body is a female? You even said that you are willing to serve me after turning into a male? In other words, you think that I'm gay. No man can pretend that they didn't hear this rumor. In an instant, I was furious and questioned her. Who said that? Who dares to spread rumors? I will teach her a lesson. But, the big sisters in the team all said that. Your lover, isn't he the city lord Adam? Furthermore, the reason why the both of you haven't gotten married for hundreds of years is because of the existence of the other party. Although I haven't reached adulthood yet and don't really understand, this kind of century-long relationship is really touching. Big sister still has novels and magazines with you two as the main characters. Woo-woo, big sister, why are you covering my mouth? Hihi, Lord, I'm sorry. It's just the people below gossiping. Not many people know about the secret between you and Lord Adam. We will keep it a secret, don't worry. Covering her little sister's mouth, Diana nods her head sympathetically. At this moment, 10,000 alpacas run in my heart and thunder rumbles in my ears. Lord Roland is already a Lich. Then, his relationship with the city lord will be even more difficult. I really want to expose those artists. Their magazines are too conservative and outdated. A same-sex love that is entangled in life and death, so beautiful. No, Diana, you must hold it in. You definitely can't expose Lord Wu Mianxi's secret just for your own desires. If I knew the thoughts of the seemingly decent female knight in front of me, I would probably have smashed her to death with a hammer or found a pillar to ram myself to death on the spot. Who said it? Who was the first to spread it? If a rumor spreads to the extent that there is a book of doujin shi without a mastermind behind it, I definitely won't believe it. Lord Silver Rose, it was something that happened 15 years ago. Everyone thought that it was true. Even the magazine had over 100 versions, so everyone thought that you had silently agreed to it. In an instant, a bucket of cold water was poured over my raging flames and I became mute. Eliza, 15 years ago? Wasn't it when I told her to spread rumors about Adam? I wanted to get angry, but I found it a little funny. Back then, wasn't it me who told her to spread rumors about Adam so that he wouldn't be able to find a girlfriend? It seemed that he had once again shot himself in the foot. Back then, I was still surprised why the rumor was so effective. Looking at it now, the content of the rumor was actually changed by the cunning Eliza. How can a man with a sexual orientation be liked by a woman? No wonder both men and women tremble in front of Wu Mianxi. As expected, Eliza, it is your fault that I am not popular and can't find a girlfriend. In the past, when I said this, there would definitely be a cold voice retorting me. No, that is because your brain is flooded with water. Do you need me to give you a mirror even an undead wants to date? Hey. Alright, even if she isn't here now, I am already used to her venomous tongue in my head. At this moment, the person who is used to hiding in my shadow with a venomous tongue is lying unconscious in her own room. Thinking about this helpless reality, the anger that filled my chest disappears in an instant. An instinctive feeling of helplessness surges up and I wave my hands powerlessly. I am not gay. Explain it to me clearly and confiscate those messy things. Then, I will help you get that belt. Just as my voice falls, the two dark elves cry tears of joy. They hug each other and nod their heads. However, from the corner of the wall behind us, a group of burly fellows jump out and shake their heads frantically. There is even a former thief who used the sign language used by thieves for scouting. Don't agree, why is that? Looking carefully, Some of those fellows are rookies from the Hall of Justice, while some are judges from the Hall of Justice. They are both young and old. The only thing they have in common is that they are all male and they are wearing strange belts and slogans. The number 1 member of Victoria's fan club. Alright, I more or less understand it now. Men and women are actually the same. Little Victor is the highest. This seems to be a little twisted. He is the only one who is nodding and shaking his head at the same time. Obviously, he is caught in a dilemma. Long live Empress Victoria. Ayo, this person has undoubtedly hit the truth of history. He really has the potential to be a charlatan. I understand now. The news must have been leaked. These fellows are all here to stop Victoria from turning back into a male. Facing the agitated fellows, I smile and sign a series of thief sign language. On the other side, the dwarf who is proficient in thief sign language is explaining to his companions word by word. I don't care if you all die. Tomorrow, every one of you will hand in 10,000 words to check. The topic is on normal values. Those who don't hand it in will be sent to feed Bayfong. Conspiracies and crimes that aren't dragged into the light don't exist. This is a saying of the Dark Elves. Rose encourages her daughters to kill one another so that the most cunning and powerful one can ascend to the top. The ranking of the various families in a city is not only the highest honor and position, but also the target for killing one another. From a certain perspective, the rules of the game between the Dark Elves and the Spider Queen are also the rules of the game of the entire underground world. At this moment, I clearly know that the Dragon Queen and the Lion King have set me up, but I can't take revenge openly. War is prohibited during the alliance period. Those who violate it will become the public enemy. However, since I can't take revenge openly, can't I take revenge secretly? During the alliance conference, we have offended quite a number of underground city lords. In the underground world, there is no such thing as repaying evil with good. If we don't take revenge after suffering a loss, we will only be seen as weak. Weakness is the greatest sin in this world. Those underground city lords definitely don't know what it means to offer help in times of need. On the contrary, it is more likely that they will tear you apart. I threw the scepter to the other party, knowing that I played a trick on him. Now, the other party is taking revenge through the undead lords. All of these are probably in the eyes of the underground city lords and they see it as a clash between the old and new autarchs. Thus, I still have to take revenge, and I have to take revenge ruthlessly. I have to follow the rules and not see a trace of blood, but I have to make the other party feel pain. In reality, I am having a headache. Logically speaking, the closer we get to the auction, the more pressure the old lion feels. Undead lords aren't easy to deal with, so the most suitable method is to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. After he is down, we can then beat him down. This is far more worth it than becoming the new generation that provokes the old Lion King. However, if I don't take revenge at all, not only will others look down on me, I won't be able to take this lying down. Victoria's request gave me the inspiration to take revenge. By the belt. From the start, it was impossible. Firstly, we accidentally offended almost all of the underground city lords. If we were to reveal our intention to buy something, those underground city lords who don't treat money as money would definitely be willing to throw away a huge sum of money to vent their anger. Even if no one steps forward to be a spendthrift, those underground autarchs wouldn't let us off easily. Since I can't buy it, I might as well steal it. Of course, due to the matter with the Eternal Night Scepter, the security of the auction house will definitely be tight. However, don't I have the world's #1 godly thief, Son of Greed? No matter how tight the security is, it is still against humanoid lifeforms. No matter how many cages or safes there are, they wouldn't be able to guard against a liquid lifeform that can change its form as it pleases. The mother of greed in the underground tunnel has already died as expected. However, not all of the sons of greed died because of it. A portion of the Sons of Greed were treated as a holy artifact by Druil of the Wild Bull Alliance and recruited to become his animal ally who shares their lives with him. Even that Bayfong caught one as a pet and used his abilities as a Beast King hunter to raise it. I don't even dare to imagine what they are raising it for and what would happen when they return to Sulphur Mountain City. As expected, I still have to leave this bunch of perverts here to fend for themselves. But now, I am a little grateful to those perverts. Otherwise, I would have to bear the pressure of those in the know and open up the mother of greed which has just been refilled to the brim. If I accidentally go overboard, based on my understanding of myself, there is an 80% chance that I will go overboard. If I were to enter a city without clothes and Eliza were to wake up, she would probably kill me without hesitation. I found a druil and borrowed his animal companion to perform mental synchronization with this bizarre slime which is in a half-dead, half-alive state. Why didn't I borrow Bafing's? Mental synchronization will instinctively share the memories of the undead's body. I don't want to know what the strongest pervert in history has done at all. Due to my trap, the auction house and the Lion King's residence have become history. Now, the Lion King and his belongings should be with the Dragon Empress. Thus, I brought the little thing to the entrance of the Dragon Empress temporary residence and placed the slime down, allowing it to travel through the underground tunnel. Alright, let's ignore the stench of the underground tunnel which seems to be a salted fish that has been left there for 30 months. Also, let's ignore the pitch-black residence in the tunnel and the battle of wits between the various guards. A few hours later, after going through countless dangers, I finally found my destination. It is a humongous treasure vault and the sleeping giant dragon at the entrance is actually the Dragon Empress herself. Looks like they have had enough of the endless thieves and robbers these days. Crawling in through the ventilation hole, there is indeed a wooden fence within the vault which acts as a barrier against the child of greed. However, with my direct control, how can the instinctive fear of the back door stop me? After carefully avoiding a few traps, I enter the core of the treasure vault. Many auction items are placed together. Due to the limited number of Slime's body, I can only take a few of them away. The first item to be abandoned is the Eternal Night Scepter at the center of the treasure vault. Lich, your craftsmanship is much worse than mine. Even without the soul connection, I can tell that it is a fake. Looks like the underground autarchs aren't fools. The treasure vault guarded by the Dragon Empress is also filled with fake goods. At the same time, I can sense that the real scepter is still in the bosom of the Lion King. Water Elemental Plane Key? Titan Core? Hihi, I've struck it rich. Being greedy isn't a good thing. After taking away the most valuable items in front of me and that belt, I start on my way back. But on the way back, I overhear the conversation between a certain someone and the Lion King from outside the ventilation duct. You must leave the scepter behind. If you mess it up, Lion, death isn't the end. Your soul will forever wail in agony under the Count's light. Yes, my lord. Please inform the Count that I will complete the mission. A Count can make the underground autarchs bow to him? Demon Count, right? Thinking about the soul light that he mentioned, a familiar name appears in the back of my head. Demon Count, Soul Eater Carcajil her? When I tried to eavesdrop further, the voice becomes deep and unpleasant. It should be that they are talking about confidential matters and used a magic to silence it. But to a slime, hearing doesn't require ears, just a fixed vibration of the sound waves is sufficient. The dimension gate will open. The Count's army will drown everything. Sulphur Mountain City. Fire Elemental God. Traitor. Obviously, from these keywords, the Lion King and the demons still haven't given up. They are planning something. But it is a pity that something interfered with my eavesdropping and the information I got was too fragmented. After which, in order to avoid being discovered by the detection spell, I retracted my control over the Child of Greed and allowed it to return through the underground duct. Alright, I admit that the main reason is that the smell and the little black thing is too nauseating. But an accident happened after it returned to the camp. I only felt that after it crawled out of the underground duct, it was attacked by someone and then, it died. It should be someone who thought it was an assassin and attacked it. Forget it, looking at the reaction of the power of law, it should be a colleague from the Hall of Judgment. I will ask them tomorrow and retrieve those things. Considering that it is already 4 in the morning, after remembering the location where I lost contact with it, I decided to retrieve those things at dawn. The next day, before dawn, a high-pitched scream of a woman jolts the entire manor awake. This voice, it sounds like Crosa. Wait, Crosa, the #1 beauty of the judicial system. From the direction of the commotion, it seems that it is coming from Crocer's bedroom. I stare at the sky speechlessly. From my previous experience of being unlucky, this time, it seems like it has gone too far. As expected, when I take out the dwarf binoculars, what I see is a tearful young lady. Her lower body is wearing a pair of male uniform trousers, but there is a brand new belt on it. The shirt on her upper body is bulging, and even though she is hugging her chest, it is unable to cover her voluptuous mountains. That beautiful face is shockingly similar to Crocer's. Looks like the number one beauty is about to become the number one beauty. Can't I just pretend that I don't know? Right, send out a document tomorrow. First, ban that ridiculous Victoria fan club and then ban that 80% chance of Colo's fan club. I am a good person. These unlucky things really have nothing to do with me.